Two songs are released 2 days before David's arrest. One is titled Imaginary Love. This song itself is not moody like you would imagine with a title like that. It's kind of an upbeat song with lyrics that read, "Jump out of them clothes and jump into my life. Let's sweat it out till it's too hot tonight. Tell me when you dream, do you see me, me, me?" Then a few days later, another song comes out titled S**X. The lyrics are exactly what you imagine. Girl, you're sexy as a motherfucker because you're sexy like no other girl. Can't get enough. Don't let no one say nothing because you're bad as fuck. From heaven you fell, dancing all on my tongue, but don't kiss and tell. These songs have been heavily discussed on forums talking about singer David's arrest and all about this case of the 14-year-old girl that was found in the front trunk of his Tesla back last year. David has just been arrested, and these songs are released exactly around that time. But they're not released by David. They're released by another singer, Kara Kova. This is a stage name, and the real individual, the musician behind that stage name, is Caleb Burke, David Anthony Burke's 18-year-old little brother. The first song is released just 2 days before his brother David is arrested and charged with the murder of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. And with a case like this, it seems like anyone who is around David by choice, whether it be familial ties or friendships, they're going to be scrutinized by the internet, with a lot of people wondering if maybe some of these people knew what David was doing. If his close friends and family members knew, or maybe they even helped. Every single person who was around David is being questioned on forums as to whether or not that they are a potential accomplice in the murder and dismemberment of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a 14-year-old girl. And this is a deep dive into every single one of those people. I encourage you to watch those first. If there's a moment in these videos where you're like, oh, why don't you talk about the song that David allegedly made in Celeste's name? Why don't you talk about this that's been circulating online? Most likely we covered that 7 months ago, and I didn't want this to be a complete repeat. I've tried to provide enough context and foundation to the case so that you're not lost as we go through most of the recent updates. I've also just done another update episode right before this one airs. There's another episode that I highly recommend watching first before you begin this one. We talk about all of the things that happened up until David's arrest, the grand jury investigations, Neil Langston being arrested, and then finally David being arrested. And we still have a lot of ground to cover. We went over some of the prosecutor's preliminary brief of what they believe, what the DA, what the police believe happened in this case, when they think Celeste Rivas was killed, when they think she was dismembered, when they think David purchased certain items. We also went over all of the autopsy details that were made public. In this episode, we're going through all of the named potential accomplices. These are just Reddit theories. These are people piecing together little clues to wonder out loud on the internet if maybe other parties were involved. And that's how David got away with it for so long. We're also going to dive into the legal aspect of things, what we're expecting for the preliminary hearing that's coming up in June, what David's parents have said publicly about this case, what Celeste's family has publicly said about this case, and also a deep dive into who the David's attorneys are, because they're kind of crazy. And the judge on this case, as well as the DA. So with that being said, let's get started. One of the key figures in this case online has become a man named Steve Fisher. He's the private investigator that's been digging into this case, and he has access that a lot of people do not have. And a lot of people have mixed feelings about whether or not they like this guy, whether or not he's just like a grimy persona on the internet that's trying to get his 3 seconds of fame off of this case and maybe pointing the finger a bit too much, or he's someone that's kept this case alive by drawing more and more attention to it up until David's arrest. Everybody has a mixed opinion. But he does have access to this case that we don't have. David allegedly commits this murder inside the garage of a house in the Hollywood Hills. David does not own this house. He rents it under his manager's name. So after the LAPD conduct a search of this house back in September of last year, the real homeowner, the property owner, like we talked about in the previous episode, they hire a PI named Steve Fisher. They're like, we need to investigate everything. We want answers. We want to know exactly what happened in our house. The questions that they really want the PI to answer are, quote, did any acts related to Celeste's disappearance or death occur at or materially involve the rental house? We know now, yeah, it probably did. But the DA was not telling them that back in October of 2025. So they're like, we want to know if she was murdered in this house. Like, we want to know what happened in this house. Another question that they had was, what digital and physical traces link the property to the Tesla that's later impounded? Are there overlooked items or recordings from in or around the home or neighborhood that should be preserved and provided to law enforcement? He says, how I work with the landlord and LAPD, I was hired by the landlord to protect a legitimate property interest and to ensure potentially relevant house-tied evidence is preserved and transmitted. The goal is to reduce uncertainty about whether the residents played any role to relay my findings to the LAPD. He says, LAPD served a search warrant to the house. His management contacted the owner and basically said that they're breaking the lease. They're going to have the movers come the next day, which they did. And they came in and they grabbed certain things, but they left a lot behind. And they basically then said, anything that's left behind, just do what you want with it. We're out. David's never seen again. Now we find out he was just in another rental house just a few miles away. Steve Fisher, the PI, says months ago, he found the burn cage. He found the chainsaw in the garage. He says,
and we couldn't get past the chainsaw or the burn cage. Just there was no reasonable use to have it there. And now we find out that it does appear like, they played a role. We're really confused about this, what happened to this tissue and this blood matter from the chainsaw, because they make it sound like there was trace amounts found, and they didn't really turn the house into a crime scene. They didn't hold it long when they did the search warrant. So it's really confusing. It seems like a chainsaw would have absolutely created a horrific scene.
It is very confusing, right? Because if it was a crime scene, how come they didn't do any crime scene?
So they didn't do a crime scene tape, but I would say that LAPD probably knows how to work under discretion a little bit better. They did come out and said that they did extensive luminol tests, although Steve Fisher is like, I didn't find any traces of luminol. Typically, they make a mess when they search a house like that. He's like, I didn't really find any mess that you would associate with an active crime scene like this.
Okay.
So Steve Fisher is saying, and there's a third kind of netizen theory that's been floating around of Steve Fisher himself has stated that he's been hired by the homeowner to more or less protect property interest as well. So it would be in his best interest, or at least the homeowner's best interest, if this murder did not happen inside the house. So some people think that that's why Steve Fisher keeps pushing this narrative that maybe the crime took place in Santa Barbara.
But then he just wouldn't have even talked if he's trying to preserve the interests of the house owner. Right?
There's a lot of back and forth about that. But one of the most alarming details, the most important detail that I think the PI has come out with, has gone public with, is his belief that there were other minors David was in contact with. Steve Fisher says that he is in contact with at least 2 other minors who David was communicating with around the same time that he was communicating with Celeste.
You allegedly have proof that David was allegedly involved with other minors?
Yeah, and I've brought that up before, but I have another minor that I've been in touch with for months and sent me photographic evidence of her and David at the rental house, and which was an illegal relationship.
He states that he's got pictures. He says he has proof that at one point, David had 2 rental homes. So he had signed, the manager, Josh Marshall, had signed this specific, let's call this the house. He signed the contract to the house, but the contract to David's previous place on Doheny had not expired yet. So he had 2 active leases, more or less.
Yeah.
So he's saying that on Valentine's Day, he knows for a fact that Valentine's Day of 2025, he had Celeste in one house and another minor in a different house for Valentine's Day. That's what he's claiming. Now, apparently, one of the girls has been in contact with him, and even this whole text message thread had been released, and it's hard to verify, but they're having it's a message between the girl and David, and they're having a cheeky conversation about her fighting off his alter ego, Itami. She says, I would definitely win an Itami fight off. David responds, no, you would not.
Who released this?
This is just circulating online. Steve Fisher seems to be heavily involved with getting information out there. So he's saying that 2 other minors were communicating with David at the time. Then other people have been trying to track down these minors. They've been DMing them. They've been releasing the DMs. And I would just be wary of reaching out to people who you suspect to be involved in this case, just especially if they're minors, because I think it puts them in a situation where they're at a disadvantage of maybe they're not exactly sure what to say, but they feel pressure to say something. And then those being released publicly is a lot. But unless they speak out publicly themselves. But one of the minors in this message, she writes back, proof? David writes, "You not winning against me, you're definitely not winning against Atami." She responds, "I would karate chop that B. How would I not win against you? Let's be real." David allegedly sends a gif of a streamer who's making a funny face to the camera with his arms behind his back. And you can't really see his arms. It almost looks like he doesn't have arms. And he responds, "You, after me and Atami, cut off both your arms." She responds just ... Steve Fisher has posted online on Twitter, "I also have proof that he had an ongoing illegal relationship with another minor at the exact same time that this was going on with Celeste. This proof includes a statement from the minor and dozens of photos that include the minor and David. Yes, law enforcement is aware of this relationship. I'm also aware of a third minor. This is a pattern. Why charges are not filed?" This was before. "For this pattern of abuse against minors is beyond logic to me. It's as if homicide or nothing. How about justice for all the victims and stopping this from happening to someone else? We have to keep the pressure on, and it's time for more pressure." So this is before David is arrested for murder. He's saying, at least get him for abusing minors. The PI Steve Fisher also states, "After LAPD served a warrant and departed, I documented several items at the property that I believed are important to the case and understanding who David's inner circle of friends are. Why this matters for the house? These materials affect the question of whether planning, post-incident staging, or other relevant conduct intersected with the rented premises." The PI writes in a tweet, "Based on the timeline, I do not believe David was alone for more than brief periods between April 23rd and April 25th. So these are the days of the murder that the prosecutors believe happened. So he's saying those days included the Coachella wind down, the release of his Withered album, pre-sales launching, and a release party in his honor, then flying to New York City for a BandLab event. He was at a peak moment in his career. Management, publicists, and others in his orbit were all present. The starfucker friends were all around. It's difficult to believe that no one knew anything about Celeste. Immunity may protect someone legally, but it does not shield them from public perception, especially if information was not brought forward immediately." So Steve is almost insinuating like that time frame that the prosecutors dropped, I know there's no way that he was alone for long periods of time. So if he's not alone for long periods of time and Celeste is dead in the house, someone must have known. He says in an interview, "I think he had help. I think there's going to be other people that go down."
I don't think he can do it by himself. I'm not saying in the murder itself, but I do think in the dismemberment or at least the moving around. I think there's going to be financial transactions that come out in this that are, if this goes to trial, they're going to show that there were people that were getting money and it's going to look really, really bad.
A lot of people are under the impression that David must have had help in some way. I mean, there are a handful of names that have been circulating which netizens believe could be at the very least informative individuals who might have information that the public is not privy to, just based off their publicly known close working relationship and or friendship with David. It doesn't mean that they actually know anything. And again, these are just internet theories. The police and DA's office have rightfully remained really tight-lipped about the possibility of witnesses getting immunity deals if they're going to make any more arrests. If there's accomplices that they're looking into, the LAPD chief is asked, "Are you only looking at him or you're looking at the possibility of other people?" The investigation is ongoing, so I wouldn't say ever that it couldn't lead to other places. But yeah, I wouldn't comment on that much at this point. The PI states, "I don't think he had a lot of downtime by himself, coming off of Coachella and all these PR events happening. And by the 25th, from the 23rd, he kills her. By the 25th, he's in New York. He has a party, album release, all this stuff is happening. Who was around him?" I think that's really going to be key. So let's go through all the circulating names of people that netizens think might know the most. The first one is obviously Neil Langston. He's the one that LAPD arrested in Montana for failing to appear to the grand jury subpoena. They hauled him back to LA, sat him in front of the grand jury, allegedly, because it's sealed. I can't get it seems most likely that's what he was involved in. He was in the courthouse. He gets arrested for not showing up. There's a grand jury investigation with the target being David Anthony Burke happening all simultaneously. But to say 100% he's not involved in a different grand jury subpoena, right, legally speaking, they sit him in front of a grand jury, allegedly, where he testifies for what appears to be 40 minutes. So people are not allowed into the room with the grand jurors. There's no reporters that are allowed in, no court reporters, nobody's allowed in. However, you can still go into the courthouse. You can still wait outside the courthouse. You can wait outside in the hallway of the courthouse. You can see where Deputy DA Beth Silverman, who's working this case, is. So you can do a lot of things, but you can't be in the room.
So this is from someone who was on site?
Yeah, lots of people were on site. Lots of people were leaking information to primarily TMZ. So I would take it with a grain of salt, but it does seem highly likely that he was there for the grand jury. And I would say that he was only there for about 40 minutes. That seems to be solid information that is not really up for debate.
Yeah.
Now, people say that 40 minutes is very suspicious because, first of all, why would LAPD go through the hassle of going to Montana, arresting him, bringing him back to LA, unless they think that he's going to be of high probative value? Like he's going to provide some sort of information, some sort of witness statement that can put David Anthony Burke at the scene of the crime. Like he must know something. Even if he doesn't think he knows, he might know without understanding what it means. Like, oh yeah, that day, he might not know what that day means, but like, oh, May 5th, he told me he couldn't do something, and then he had this cut on his arm. Like he could know something without knowing he knows. But he finally gets to LA. He's in there for 40 minutes, and he says, what? We don't know. 40 minutes? Is he talking in 5 times speed? Or is he not saying anything at all? Most people think it's the latter. He only testified in front of the grand jury for 40 minutes. Meanwhile, David's manager, Robert Morgan Roth, he was on the stand reportedly for 3 days in front of the grand jurors.
Wow.
Netizens think that the entire time Neo Langston pled the fifth, which even that has been a huge debate. TMZ got involved. It's a very weird, messy rabbit hole that I don't know how productive it is at this point in time, but David's attorney, Blair Burke, has been reported to be vacation buddies with the TMZ founder, Harvey Levin. And ever since Blair Burke took on David's case, people have a feeling that the TMZ news has shifted, where Celeste is consistently referred to as the young lady versus the child, the girl, the young girl, the baby, like 14-year-old. They also think that even Neo Langston, TMZ is like, he pled the fifth. Then they're like, well, he didn't plead the fifth. We heard that he said, I don't know to all the questions, which is technically not pleading the fifth. Neo's attorney says that he was cooperating with the prosecutors, which he can say all of that, and that doesn't mean anything. Just because you say your client is cooperating with the prosecutors doesn't mean he didn't plead the fifth, and doesn't mean that he didn't answer I don't know to everything, because, in the off chance that he really doesn't know, he's still cooperating. He's still answering the questions. But it's become this whole thing. Netizens do not have a positive view of Neo Langston, not even in the slightest. This is just generally speaking across the board. I truly have no strong opinion on whether or not he's involved or knew anything. I genuinely think that you could put Neo Langston in a white padded room with a light bulb that has the same voltage, the same looms of like the sun. It's like lighting up the entire room, and I would still say that Neo is not very bright. That's just who he is at his core. One of the key pieces of quote unquote evidence netizens have been holding onto for believing that Neo knows more than he's letting on, aside from the very close proximity to David during this timeline of the murder and dismemberment alleged. In this Ring video, there's this Ring video that the PI releases. So April 29th, the PI releases Ring camera footage from one of the neighbors' houses. And he's like, I've been holding on to this for a really long time. I didn't want to release it until, the police did their work. So it reads, now that the prosecution has released a briefing for the preliminary hearing in the David case, we are releasing surveillance footage of the Tesla being moved on July 29th. The driver is a lighter skinned with long hair wearing a red jersey.
July 29th?
Yes.
Oh, they're just casually moving the car in the neighborhood? Okay.
So to which all the responses are reposting a picture of David and Neo that was taken on July 28th. It was at least posted on Instagram on July 28th. Could have been taken the night of July 27th. Could have been taken 2 years ago, right? Who knows? But it's posted the day before this alleged car movement, Ring camera footage. Neo is wearing his so-called favorite red jersey. He does have long hair, and he's like a pale, I think he's half Chinese or full Chinese. I think he's Chinese. He spoke about being Chinese.
So it appears like it's him.
That's what netizens are saying. I think the video is approximately 1 pixel in quality. I really can't tell you. Some people are saying it even looks like the driver's holding their nose as they drive. I don't know, but netizens are taking this and saying it looks like Neo, and Neo loves wearing his red jersey. He was pictured in it the day before this footage. Maybe this is Neo. However, the state in the brief regarding the preliminary hearing states that David was the last person to drive the Tesla on July 29th, which could also be true. So either this is a video of David driving the Tesla, and because it's 1 pixel in quality, we really can't tell between Neo Langston or David Burke. Or this could be Neo drove it in the morning, and then David was the last one to drive it on the day of July 29th.
There's no conversation about Tesla's cameras?
There was. It seems like all of that would have been gone by the time that
They found it.
Yeah, they found the car and Celeste's body. And even if they subpoena it, I wonder if it'll be like a situation for what happened with Nancy Guthrie's case, where technically the ring footage is not saved to her, or the Google Nest footage was not saved to her phone, but they subpoenaed Google, and Google was able to somehow get this footage that was logged. But if that, I mean, that could take months. Nancy Guthrie's case took a while for that footage to come out, but not nearly as long. Took
That would
like
be
a
like
week.
the most critical, right?
So it could be Neo driving it. It could be David driving it. But all we know is that the prosecutor said he was the last one to move the car, which some people think is interesting because the prosecutors could have also written, knowing that there's so much online speculation about this case, David Berg was the only one to move the Tesla and it was last moved July 29th. But instead the wording is he was the last one to move the car July 29th before he went on tour, which nothing's necessarily
that
wrong
mean?
with that wording. But some people online are saying, well, why wouldn't the prosecutors just tell everyone, like, hey, he was the only one that ever moved the car, and it was last moved on July 29th.
Instead of saying he was the last one to move it.
It almost sounds
implying there could be someone else before.
And maybe they did that wording because they also don't know, and they want to make sure to leave it open just in case. Or they know something that we don't know, which they know lots of things we don't know. But so there are netizens who think that Neo is not the one in the car. There are ones that they think he is the one in the car, but honestly, I can't tell. It's genuinely 1 pixel in quality. I can't tell who it is. I couldn't even tell you one thing about the person driving this car in this footage.
But the private investigator released that basically saying this is Neo.
He's always been on Neo's neck. He's always had his foot on Neo's neck. He doesn't outright say it, but it's almost insinuated by a lot of people in the comments, at least. And the July 4th Sakura live stream has become a big pivotal point in why people think that Neo is involved. If you haven't watched the last episode, go watch that, but we do a full breakdown on it. David, this is July 4th, so this is months after Celeste has already been allegedly killed. He's in the bathroom of his house. Twitch streamer Sakura is live streaming. Neo is sitting next to her. It's just Sakura and Neo in frame. David walks over and starts apologizing to Sakura about why his house smells. He's like, oh, the bathroom smells because I just took a shit in there 2 hours ago. Sakura doesn't think anything of it. And genuinely, the people that think that she knows something, I think that they're just trying to do a witch hunt. I don't think that everybody that knew David knew something. Otherwise, he would have gone to jail much quicker. And she looks genuinely confused. She's just like, oh, don't even worry about it. Like, I also just took a shit. And David is like, type shit. They do a handshake. Neo looks uncomfortable. A lot of people think that in this footage, Neo looks uncomfortable because he's like, David, why are you bringing this up on live stream? Like, you need to shut up. Don't talk about this on live stream. I didn't necessarily interpret it that way. I mean, I guess I could if I really want to kind of analyze the footage that way. I think he's trying to play it up for the cameras of like, oh God, these people are crazy. They're talking about pooping. Because it was like a very, like
a little performative, almost like a reactive to.
Yeah, like
it's very obvious.
Yes,
reaction.
It's like, why are you guys hearing this?
Right,
wow,
right,
look at them handshaking for shitting together.
So it wasn't like a subtle shift. It's like obvious he's making faces.
Yes. It was not like a subtle tensing up of like, okay, let me quickly change the topic.
Right.
It was very like, ew, gross. Trying to play it up for the cameras.
Okay,
in a teasing manner, right? But I still think Neo is a weird person. Neo has since publicly spoken out. He says in a series of stories, Instagram stories, me and my lawyer were actually planning on making a statement soon, but obviously now is the best of times since TMZ decided to leave out the actual full statement, so here you go. Then you click the next slide because it's Instagram story. The first statement is from his attorney.
Like say about him?
TMZ, I mean, I think that people are connecting Blair Burke, David's attorney, and TMZ's Harvey Levin. I don't necessarily think that TMZ is Neo Langston's mouthpiece. If anything, they seem to be going down harsh on Neo Langston. They were just releasing bits and parts of his statement. And I don't think that they, in this particular situation, misled the audience because Neo Langston has had some weird social media posts since David's arrest that we're going to go through. So he posts the full statement. And the first one is a statement from his attorney, Shockey Law. And it reads, my client, Mr. Langston, will not make any public statement at this time as the investigation is ongoing. What I can share is that since returning to Los Angeles, Mr. Langston has fully cooperated with law enforcement and will continue to assist the prosecution as needed. As the investigation continues, it will become clear that Mr. Langston played no part in this heinous crime and that he was and continues to be wrongfully persecuted in the court of public opinion, resulting in unwarranted and belligerent belligerent harassment directed towards my client and his family. We sincerely hope that justice is ultimately served for the victim and her family. Shockey Law. He's like, my client will not make a statement. You click the next button, Neil fucking Langston makes a statement. Okay, now I do think that this was probably heavily vetted by his attorney, but just like the irony of like, we will not be making any statements. Here's a statement from my client on his Instagram story. Neo says, I understand due to my silence and the silence in general, it leaves a void of information that everyone wants to fill. But at the end of the day, this case isn't about me. It isn't about you. It's about getting justice for the victim and her family. And the fact that like they won't say her name. Everyone knows her name. Just say her name, Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Why do you keep saying the victim and her family? It's about getting justice for the victim and her family, and I care a lot more about that than trying to fill that void because of public opinion. Obviously, wasn't doing my part at first, but now I am. So he's saying all I've ever done is try to get justice for her family. I mean, I wasn't in the beginning, but now I am. So he's like... Okay.
What is going on?
I've stayed loyal to my mindset and I will continue to. I'm not publicly going to give any opinion or emotion about this case because I find it disrespectful and not my place to weigh in on it, especially as it's still ongoing. I'm not going to spam posts to justify and perform my feelings and thoughts for the internet, trying to satisfy people who have already made up their minds about me. In time, the record will speak for itself and I'm moving on with my life. To which one netizen responds on Reddit, quote, obviously wasn't doing my part at first, but now I am. This guy is not serious, LMFAO. To which people have this whole conversation. I literally died at that part too. Like, what the fuck? What made him do his part now? Getting arrested? Someone comments, yeah, getting arrested does wonders on helping people cooperate. If they had brought these people in for questioning on day one, this would have been solved last year. The private investigator takes to Twitter saying, so here's the thing, Neo. If you have to tell, quote, my side of things, that means you were involved in the things. You just want everyone to believe that you did less of the things. People who weren't involved don't have my side of things. And how tone deaf are you exactly? Your Weep For Me post has 11 references to you and not a single mention of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who is dead. She's dead because of the things you're trying to explain away. Nobody cares about your feelings, Neo. This is about Celeste and justice in her name. One person astutely points out, what bothers me most about these kinds of posts are the lack of situational awareness in combination with the obvious narcissism. Any sane or rational person would fully understand why the public suspected a connection. Like, it's not like people just picked a random guy to throw suspicion at. He doesn't seem to understand why people are reacting the way they are. And although he says this isn't about me, he goes on to talk about the unjust way that he has been treated. There are consequences to hanging out with the wrong people, and when those people are as evil as David, you can't just escape the karma of that. But the more confusing part is that Neo has made statements previously on this. Like, if you just read this statement, you'd be like, oh, he's never made a statement before. He went on Instagram and posted on Close Stories, okay? He writes, this is like a day or two before, on Close Stories. He goes, thankfully, I'm legally fine in every way. And boy, do I got all my receipts for things. Ha 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 ha.
What does that mean? I'm legally fine.
That's what people are pointing out. Legally fine is an interesting distinction between innocent. I have nothing to do with it. I'm innocent. I have no involvement. Yeah. Versus legally fine are very different things.
Yeah, that's really...
Then the next slide of that reads, I think the worst part is that I've told so many people that I thought I trust and I thought knew me as a person, my side of things, for all that to be thrown out the effing window as soon as I get arrested and they slap that dickhead's name next to mine. And for the record, the thing I was arrested for, I wasn't even charged. They never filed it. And my warrant was retracted because there's more to the story. I mean, his warrant was retracted because he got extradited to LA and he did go in front of the grand jury, apparently. All of this is just very bizarre.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying, like, my side of things. I think that's the thing the PI is also pointing out, in the sense of, what do you mean your side of things? Either you have zero involvement and you had no idea what was going on, or what's your side of things? These very specific statements had led a lot of netizens to speculate that Neo maybe moved the car or was somewhat involved, but maybe he didn't know what he was doing. He's just been told, hey, move the car for me periodically. Here's the key. And he's moving the car. And that's why he's saying, I told people that I trust my side of the story. And then once I get arrested, everyone's slapping that dickhead's name next to mine. It almost sounds like this is speculating, netizens speculating, that you told your friends, I didn't know there was a dead body in the car. He just told me to move the car. And now they don't believe me. And these are people that I thought I trusted. Versus, I told people I know nothing. I did nothing.
Yeah.
That could also be why he says that he has the receipts. Or it could mean that he's not involved at all. But again, the legally fine distinction is a bit odd. Some think that he could be saying that he's legally fine because he got some sort of immunity deal. However, if that is the case, I think that the DA's office would be probably incensed that he's posting stuff like this. People have also taken to posting him walking out of court, and they're commenting that he looks like someone who just is walking out with a deal. One netizen theorizes, y'all remember the neighbor who found the Tesla key in the drain? So that was like a thing 7 months ago. Remember one of the neighbors came out and was like, I found a Tesla key in the little drainage.
No.
Yeah, it was like a
I don't
thing.
remember this.
But then people couldn't tie it to David's Tesla because everybody loses their fucking Tesla key. And everybody's got a Tesla in LA, you know? So there was like a Tesla key that was found in the drain near that area. People are saying, I think maybe Neo was supposed to move the body in the car and he lost the key. And so that's why he couldn't move it, because David was on tour. He would need the key. But other people are saying that doesn't make sense because Teslas have an app where you can just unlock the car from anywhere in the world. Like you don't even have to be within the vicinity. So that wouldn't make sense. Even if he lost the key, I'm sure David or Neo would have just unlocked the car from the app. So that's what other people are speculating. Others just have a very bad feeling about Neo, with one comment writing, I think it finally hit Neo that David is fucked, and Neo only cares about himself at this point. His days of clout with David are over. His choice to keep covering for him while receiving no benefits or to cooperate and hope to save his reputation, I think he's going to do the latter. I really think Neo thought this shit would blow over. David would pick his career back up and he could just continue being celeb adjacent. After he's arrested, he realized this shit is over. The PI speculates that Neo is arrested in Montana, brought back to LA. He goes in front of the grand jurors. He says, I don't know, or pleads the fifth to everything. And the PI is speculating now they're using that as leverage to say, listen, we're pleading the fifth. You want to work a deal? Offer us immunity of some sort, whatever deal that we're looking for, and then we'll talk. He writes on Twitter, I have a feeling what happened was that they used that to let them know that was their intention. And they probably met a day or two later with whoever they needed to meet with on the DA side and worked out some sort of agreement, and probably then ended up giving the testimony that he had. The importance of Neo in this entire investigation is still up in the air, but people seem to be agreeing that he seems somewhat important for the LAPD to go all the way over there. One legal expert states, I don't know what his role is, but what leads me to believe that this is an important witness, you don't go through the trouble of getting an arrest warrant, going out of state, having that individual arrested unless you're a key witness. That's just not how the LA County's DA's office typically works.
So he just went home right after the grand jury, basically?
I think he lives in LA. I think his mom lives in Montana. So I think he's still in LA.
Okay.
Yeah. And
his charge was dropped. Okay.
Now, the same legal expert speculates, ideally in a case like this where you have an individual who's the target of your investigation, so that would be David, and he's surrounded by an entourage, and members of the entourage probably don't want to cooperate or rat or snitch, whatever you want to call it, the DA is trying to use that grand jury to lock in their testimony so that they can go to trial and they can't go sideways. Basically, so potentially Neo or other people can't change their testimony. There's also a circulating TikTok of a guy whose father is an auto mechanic. And he says, here's the weird thing. He's saying that David ordered 2 chainsaws. He's like, my dad is an auto mechanic. Like, these chainsaws, they don't break. Like, you don't need 2 of them. You need 1. So why did he order 2? And he's speculating that he ordered 2 because he had an accomplice. And a lot of the comments are pointing at Neo.
My dad is a mechanic. And so as I'm talking with him about all the things he bought, I'm like, yeah, he bought 2 chainsaws, this and that and the third. And he stops me. And he's like, why do you buy 2? And I'm like, I don't know. And I was like, maybe because like one of them would break, you know, or maybe one of them's faulty. And he looks at me, he's like, no, they don't break that easily. So why the fuck did he buy 2? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, no, somebody had to help him because you would never need 2 chainsaws. Those things are powerful and, you know.
But I don't necessarily know if Neo would have been involved in dismembering Celeste. I think Neo reminds me, or at least strikes me as the type of person who's really only out for himself. I'm not entirely sure how much he would be willing to risk his entire life and freedom for David, who seems to be just a friend that he was using for money and clout. Unless David promised him the world, which, I mean, I still just don't see how that would make sense. Another thing is with the 2 chainsaws, maybe an auto mechanic knows that they're not going to break, but I don't know if a regular civilian like David would know that. I also think that there was some speculations online that David ordered 2 chainsaws because he didn't know how to charge that you would need to charge the battery. So instead of like he ordered two, like there are just there are lots of speculations on why 2 chainsaws instead of 1. I don't know.
So he ordered 2 chainsaws from Amazon.
Yes.
And the private investigator only found 1?
I think he found the boxes. I don't even know if he found, like, we don't know if those are the ones that he ordered on Amazon. Like, it's very hard to,
I see. Okay.
The preliminary brief, if I recall correctly, it said the chainsaws and other tools. Like, they left it open as well. One comment summarizes, I mean, it really doesn't make any sense that any of his friends actually helped him dismember the body. Being a friend you mooch off of versus being a friend you will go down to jail for life are very different. I mean, unless it was his parents, I don't even know if David's parents would go so far, considering they have other kids. Another person comments, I can't see Neo doing life for a short-term friend. I wouldn't even do that for a long-term friend. If he has nothing to worry about, it explains why he's being so nonchalant about this and posting on social media. I was convinced that he had something to do with it, but that was mainly down to the private investigator heavily insinuating he was the last person to move the Tesla. It's going to be very interesting to see the receipts. One person writes, maybe his stories are being read into incorrectly. Maybe, quote, more to the story refers to there being more to the story of what happened for him being dragged into LA to testify. Maybe other people were pointing the finger at him and it wasn't real. Maybe the receipts are simply related to his name being cleared in this case. I don't know. Regardless, a lot of netizens think that Neo might have to at least probably known that Celeste was a child and could have potentially known the nature of what was going on between David and Celeste. How could he have not known she was a minor? And these are still crimes. Even if he didn't know about killing and dismembering, that's still a crime what he did to Celeste. And if he did know, how could you not do something about it? Then you have Josh Marshall, who was David's manager. A lot of people have a lot to say about Josh Marshall. It comes from the fact that mainly he's David's manager. I will say a few threads that they think are connected is first the email. There is a screenshot going around of an alleged anonymous email sent to David's management team back in February of 2024. So this is a year before Celeste is allegedly killed. That reads, there's been talk about the artist David possibly having something to do with the disappearance of a 13-year-old Celeste Rivas. If that statement holds any merit, please do the right thing and take her home. Her parents are very worried. They attach a photo of Celeste's missing persons poster. Steve Fisher, the PI, writes on Twitter, early in the case, I released information about an email that was sent to David's manager, Josh Marshall, and another person, notifying them that Celeste Rivas Hernandez was a missing person. Josh publicly denied this in TikTok comments, claiming this was untrue. However, an alleged copy of that email was leaked tonight on Reddit. The screenshot circulating online is said to be one that Josh took himself, sent to David, who then forwarded it to one of Celeste's friends, and there will be more that proves that this is a known relationship between an adult and a child. So the PI is saying, like, I know Josh Marshall saw this.
Right, okay.
Or he's speculating heavily that Josh Marshall saw this. Steve Fisher further alleges that David also knew about this email because apparently, like I said, he's saying that David forwarded this email to other people and these other people are how the PI got it.
Is Josh Marshall a big time manager or is it just...
He's the founder of Mogul Vision, which is like the sub label that was managing David. Lil Mosey, he discovered, I guess you could say he managed Lil Mosey. He worked with a few other slightly bigger names.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, after that email was sent, apparently Celeste goes back home, remember? And also when the sheriff's department goes to David's house. But in an alleged TikTok comment, Josh Marshall reportedly writes, and this is a random TikTok account that was created in Puerto Rico, which a lot of people do believe that Josh Marshall lives in Puerto Rico. I don't know, take it with a grain of salt. There's no way to verify that this is Josh Marshall's account, but a lot of mainstream media have even reported that this is Josh Marshall, so I don't know. He responds as if he is Josh Marshall. So again, up for debate, but it reads, this video is false. So there was this whole video on TikTok of someone accusing Josh Marshall of being involved in helping kill Celeste. The comment reads, this video is false and the person is misinformed. This is the only time I'll speak on this matter for now. This has been a tough time for my family as I am a father of 3 children. I received no emails and I'm no one's roommate. I live full-time at home with my wife and kids. My daughter is 14 and this news is affecting so many lives. I never received any emails. I had zero knowledge of anything and I don't live in California. Also, I work remotely 95% of the time and my job doesn't require me to have much interaction with any of my clients / David, as there are many many others that work with him on a day-to-day capacity, not me. This news is tragic for so many and for her family. I hope the proper authorities get to the bottom of it soon. Let me remind people, a lot of this is speculation and alleged. In the meantime, I'm with my family helping them emotionally get through the news of this tragedy. Please report on factual information. Josh Marshall.
He's the one that you said he went to the grand jury and then...
That was Morgan Roth, his other manager. So Josh Marshall is part of Mogul Vision. Okay. So like the record label.
Is he the one that rented the place for him? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So he wasn't there. And then he has another manager for...
It's unclear if Josh Marshall was subpoenaed by the grand jury.
Okay.
But Robert Morgan Roth was there for like 3 days.
And who exactly is he?
He's the touring manager.
Oh.
Yeah, so he also
he's
works
spending a lot of time with David right after.
Yes.
The
so
murder.
Robert Morgan Roth works with Mogul Vision, but he also is like co-president of Zara Brothers Tour or something of that nature, something like that name. He is basically handling all the touring stuff. So yes, he was probably there on tour with David the whole time.
Wow, I see. Yeah.
Whereas I don't think Josh Marshall was. If anything, I'm sure David had a different, smaller manager that handled his day-to-day, like Josh Marshall said. This is not me saying that Josh Marshall is a good person or anything. I mean, I don't know him at all. But I will say that Josh Marshall's Instagram is also registered in Puerto Rico, so this could be Josh Marshall. But it's also weird that he would make his first and only statement on TikTok comments, of all places. Not like a proper PR statement for being the founder of this mini record label. It just doesn't make sense. Also, I don't know if Josh Marshall should be stating that he barely had interactions with David when it's clear that David was at his wedding in July of 2023 and even performed. This is also like a super intimate wedding in Italy. Josh Marshall's wife had posted about it and it's still up on her Instagram. It's like each row of the wedding has like 3 seats in each row. It's a really intimate wedding. And maybe David's just there to perform for his manager boss, right? But it's still kind of odd. The email, I will say, is a big part of why Josh Marshall's name comes up, and the fact that he's the one that signed the lease to the Hollywood Hills place that David was living in when this occurred. And also the Fonda Theater concert. There is a concert in LA at the Fonda Theater from June 27th, 2024. It was like a 3-day concert. And Celeste is pictured in the VIP section at this massive concert with Josh Marshall, David's parents, David's siblings, and other members of David's entourage in the VIP section. This is where we get the video of what looks like, and this has been, Caleb Burke, David's brother, has spoken up about this since then, but what looks like Celeste and Caleb walking back.
Like they just went backstage, right? Or...
Yes. Now, he does clarify what they were doing in that context, but he confirms that's Celeste.
And the photo you're referring to?
Yes.
We can see them very clearly?
I mean, it's like 10 pixels. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you factor in that Caleb confirmed that's Celeste at the Fonda Theater, she's wearing the same clothes. You can't really zoom in and see her face super clearly, but it matches.
Oh, wow.
Now, Celeste is there, and they have this huge photo booth set up at the Fonda Theater. And conveniently, she's not in any of the photo booth pictures that were taken and uploaded. There are members of David's friend group, his family, his management team, people from Mogul Vision that are in these photo booth pictures that she is not in. She's there in the VIP section, but she's not with them in any of the photos. So maybe Celeste told them that she doesn't want to be in any photos, or David told them that she can't be in any photos, or David specifically told them that she shouldn't be because she's a minor, or maybe everybody already knew she was a minor and that's why they didn't want her to be in the photos. Why was she not in the photos? Why was she there? Why didn't anybody realize that she's clearly a minor? And the most damning in terms of legally speaking, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's illegal for Josh Marshall to rent the Hollywood Hills home under his name and not mention to the homeowner that David is the one living there. That's like the biggest tie. If I'm not mistaken, the homeowner didn't even know David, the singer. And they're like, okay, so now we find out that a singer is living in our house and they found a body in his car. So it's highly, highly doubtful, I will say, that someone like Josh Marshall, who founded Mogul Vision, is going to be involved in helping David with something like this. I think, if anything, netizens are questioning whether or not he knew Celeste was a minor and whether he did anything about it. And it seems like he didn't do anything about it if he knew. Then there's Robert Morgenroth. He's the president of David's touring company, like I said. He was heavily present during David's tour. This is taking place right after David allegedly murders Celeste. Robert Morgenroth testifies in front of the grand jurors for what has been reported as 3 days. But one thing that's very interesting is apparently he came out into the hallway to talk to his attorney because defense attorneys are not allowed in there. Not that he's a defendant, but attorneys are not allowed in.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because it's an investigative grand jury. So the attorneys, they wait in the hallway, and he apparently comes out into the hallway, and this was loud enough so that other people in the hallway could hear. And it's been reported that he says Beth Silverman, the deputy DA, presenting the case to the grand jurors, she was very pushy on why I didn't call the police. We don't know if this really happened, or maybe passerbys misheard what he said, but he allegedly continues to tell his attorney in the hallway, I said I feel like I didn't have the responsibility to do that and just wanted to continue with the tour. Even if he did say that, it's unclear what he's referring to. Is he referring to potentially that he knew that Celeste was underage and she was missing and that she was with David before she had gone missing, or that there's a body in David's car? Most netizens think it's the former, that he knew that Celeste was a minor and had gone missing. I can't verify this, but according to Redditors, the only statement that he's made publicly is, it's not even a statement, but apparently he privated everything. And he did post a recent story where he had a screenshot of his company making $900,000 thus far in 2026 since year start. And in the past month made about $350,000. From, I guess, other tours, other things.
He posted his revenue?
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah.
Like a flex?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess he's so bothered by everyone talking about him, or at least it feels like he's so bothered that he must be like, no, guys, I'm still killing it. One netizen comments, Robert Morgenroth hasn't made a single public statement, but he has made time to post about his company making $800,000 to $900,000 in 2026. Meanwhile, his former client David is facing serious charges, and he's reportedly been questioned for days in front of a grand jury. The priorities here are interesting. Then there's Asia Collins, who is a very close friend of David's, or at least appeared to be in the past. There were reports during the grand jury hearings that there was an unnamed female witness that was being uncooperative. A lot of Redditors believe that if this is true, they think it could have been Asia Collins. But we don't know for sure. We don't even know if she was subpoenaed.
Who is she exactly? Is she a streamer too?
I would say she's like Neo Langston in the sense of, I don't even know if I could identify them as streamers because they're not known as streamers. They're not that well known.
Right. They're mostly known as David's friends.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay.
That would stream. But it seems like a lot of their streams revolved around David and having a famous friend. There's a few viral clips because she is the one in the 4th of July stream with Sakura, who's an actual streamer, and she's getting ready next to Sakura. This is where, again, David apologizes for the smell in the house, attributes it to him pooping 2 hours ago. She's also in a separate live stream. This is from David's live stream. So it's David and Asia Collins, and they're sitting and they're reacting to these videos. And I guess these very young fans had set in a video for David to see. I think they're singing one of his songs. They look really young. They look 11, 12. There's a clip of David. They're up on the screen and it's paused. So the two young girls are just sitting there. And then David's talking to Asia and he's screaming, I'm a gooner, I'm a gooner, I'm a gooner.
I'm a gooner. I'm a gooner. I'm a gooner.
Gooner is like someone who self-pleasures a lot, is what gooner means.
What?
So people have taken this.
We don't know the context?
We do know the context. So people have taken this clip and they're saying, look, Asia Collins knew. There's two young girls on the screen and David is screaming, I'm a gooner, I'm a gooner, I'm a gooner, right? So Asia obviously knew something. People are like, look at her. She's like the Ghislaine Maxwell of David. That's a crazy thing to say considering the scale of which Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein had victimized people. But people are just equating her to being a wannabe Ghislaine Maxwell, saying she knew, she didn't care, she just wanted the fame and money. I think some context is in that live stream. They paused the video and I guess they got sidetracked about a different conversation. And Asia was like, no, I need to see your phone. Like she wanted to look through David's phone. And that's when David is like, no, you can't because I'm a gooner. Like you can't look through my phone because probably there's like X-rated videos on there. We now know that there's CSAM on there. But he's saying things like, I'm a gooner, I'm a gooner.
Go through your TikTok life. No, you can't go through my life. My life's too.
What if I don't show him? What if I don't show him?
Nah.
So some people are saying, well, it's not fair to take it out of context. Other people are saying it's still incredibly weird as a public figure to have two clearly underage girls on the screen. You're live streaming and you're screaming things like I'm a gooner. Now, what is interesting is that Asia Collins is under a lot more scrutiny than quote-unquote decoy Celeste. Because if you remember 7 months ago, most of the conversation was actually about who is decoy Celeste?
Yeah.
Who is the older Celeste? Did older Celeste know about younger Celeste? Did they ever meet? Now, the PI Steve Fisher says, so there is another Celeste that was not super close with David.
Really?
That other Celeste is actually really close friends with Asia. And Asia is the one that's close with David.
Wait, decoy Celeste is not like a...
It seems like she's not.
Wow.
And I will say, even watching the 2-hour live stream that Sakura posted on 4th of July that is relevant to this case, Asia and David seem a lot closer. The way they interact, the way they talk to each other, whereas the older Celeste just seems very quiet and on the side.
Oh! Sorry.
Excuse me.
She doesn't seem that familiar or comfortable around David.
Interesting. So her and David were not like dating or anything?
No, it doesn't appear to be.
Huh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
She is really close with Asia. And the PI says, who's one of the people that was always around. So that was just a coincidence. There was another Celeste. It wasn't a decoy or anything like that. That's what the PI is saying. Asia, I do think, is getting a lot more scrutiny because of the way that she's been handling a lot of the questions that netizens have. Asia had put out a statement reading, since people are being super disrespectful, I will clarify some things. I did not know the girl nor her age. May she rest in peace. I have never posted any videos with Celeste Rivas, only my friends Vanessa and Celeste Herrera, who are commonly being mistaken as Celeste Rivas. Everyone wants to act like TikTok detectives, yet they can't tell the difference between people of color. Let's pack it up, y'all. She's stating that she did not know Celeste, the victim. I don't know why she says the girl. I think that language made netizens dislike her quite a bit. Yeah. But she also says that she didn't know Celeste's real age and that she never knew Celeste. So there's an Instagram DM where Asia is referencing a missing poster of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. And she writes in this DM to somebody else, bro, this is my friend's girlfriend, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. It almost feels like this is the time that she discovers that Celeste Rivas Hernandez is a minor and missing. To which the person writes back, is there a way you can confirm? She's 13. Asia allegedly responds, what the fuck, you're lying.
Wow, this is 2024.
A year before she's killed.
Right.
So you're saying you didn't know the girl, you didn't know her age, you know nothing about this. But I mean, if these DMs are real, they prove otherwise.
Right.
Asia Collins puts out a statement that reads, this investigation is ongoing. I will speak on things when I can and feel ready. Please respect my privacy and allow for the police to do their job. Then she posts another one. For legal and safety reasons, I do not feel comfortable talking about the case. I will speak about it in due time. In the meantime, I suggest you don't believe everything you see online. And because she doesn't explain how she went from not knowing the girl to knowing the girl and knowing her age to now I can't talk, people start digging and people can pinpoint her being in the same location that Celeste was in at one point from the Fonda Theater in Los Angeles. One comment reads, footage from the Fonda Theater in 2024 shows that David performed on 3 separate nights between June 27th and 29th, and Celeste was present with them at the side stage on all 3 days, around David's management, team, and other crew members. This shows a complete failure by everyone who knew she was spending time with David and chose to do nothing. She had been reported missing multiple times and still nobody took action or confirmed her safety. All parties involved should be held accountable for this unacceptable negligence and for knowingly allowing the situation to continue. When you look at what ultimately happened to Celeste, it's impossible to ignore how many people let this happen. Another comment reads, did anyone around David care to ask about the girl that looked 11? I find it hard to believe that none of his friends knew. Neo and Asia for sure knew. One person writes, it will follow Asia because she can't stop associating herself with it. I've said it before, but Celeste Herrera, decoy Celeste, was smart. She just completely removed herself from the situation and didn't post anything antagonistic. If you Google Asia, all she will be is beside posts about David. Her snide remarks calling Celeste the girl will always be there. She also just keeps engaging with netizens and having a bit of a condescending attitude, which doesn't do her any favors in this case. There's one video of Asia, and I will say it's unclear when this video was filmed and posted, but some people believe it's around the time that this is all taking place. And she's just telling the camera,
sometimes I just get so fucking sad, you know, that people just can't keep my dick out their mouth. Like, y'all got anything else better to do? Keep talking about me though, it's chill.
On what appears to be Asia's account on Reddit, she posts on one of the many David subreddits, "Hi, this is Asia. Yes, this is actually my account. Just wanted to come on here and state a few things because a lot of things have gotten out of hand. I have made it clear on multiple platforms that I am no longer friends with David. And as for talking about things, I am respecting the investigation as well as Celeste Rivas. You guys do not know everything going on as much as you have done digging. I am also lost as well. The harassment has gotten horrible. I have people being extremely misogynistic and terrible towards me because of things they believe to be true, but not actually having any facts. I only want justice for Celeste Rivas as a young girl's life was taken. I myself have been a victim of grooming and often felt when I was younger that I had a mature demeanor and, quote, grew up fast. I know you all don't know me, but it also means you don't know my personality or nature. The post that was put on here that picked on everything in my life was not necessary. All it was doing was nitpicking every single job I've ever had. I don't understand what's wrong with working so hard. As for OnlyFans, the moment I started it, I ended it shortly. I was scared and it wasn't who I was. Seeing this Reddit post pictures of me and my personal information just isn't okay. I have had people track me down at work, stalk me, threaten to kill me, threaten to eat me up, chop me up, you name it. Yet people don't know how hard I am working in silence to bring justice to Celeste Rivas in the ways that I can. I would appreciate if people actually sat back and thought about the harassment you are bringing to people who have nothing to do with this case. This will be the only time I will be speaking on this until I'm ready. Thank you. I understand everyone's curiosity and frustration." I don't know what she thought was going to happen in that. The comments were obviously exactly what you expect, but clearly not what Asia Collins expected. She responds, "All right, y'all are rude as fuck and I tried, so I'm deleting this app like I had been a while ago. Reddit is nothing but disrespectful." The comments are exactly what you imagine. One person writes, "This is a performative ass post. Knowing everyone is watching her and waiting for her to acknowledge it. Girl, just shut the fuck up. Everything she does is so selfish and performative. She acts like someone else dying that she knew is an inconvenient bother to her and her life. It's concerning how consistently she lacks any and all empathy and basic human decency." Another reads, "Bitch, you knew that was a little girl. And you did shit to protect her. Never called her parents, never called the cops. This feel sorry for me. I was also groomed too. I grew up around sex workers." Literally has zero to do with this situation and everything to do with you trying to deflect. One is a bit simpler, writing, "When she's older, she's gonna regret the way that she handled every step of this, especially if she's a mother herself and can view it from that lens." There isn't really a strong piece of evidence tying Asia to having any sort of criminal involvement. I would say there's a lot more speculations about Neo considering he was arrested and seemingly testified to the grand jurors. Asia's name primarily comes up frequently when you go down the Reddit rabbit holes. As for if David truly does have accomplices, DA Hochman is asked, "Mr. Hochman, were there other people who were aware of this relationship? Is it possible that you will be arresting other people within his circle? And did he act alone in this death?"
Again, with respect to whether or not there's any other individuals or we're going to take any other actions, you will know about them if we do, but at this point, I'm not commenting.
Another interesting aspect to this is the deputy DA stated that this case involves a voluminous amount of evidence, including material obtained through a wiretap. So side note, the wiretap, the prosecutors have stated that they need someone externally to review all of it, to basically check that the prosecutors are not listening to any privileged conversations, aka any conversations between David and Blair Burke, his attorney, or paralegals, or anyone on his legal team. So this would, have one assume that this wiretap took place after Celeste's body is found in David's car. So it should be interesting to see who exactly he's talking to, what he's saying to these people. I'm sure at least
so crazy,
at some point, Neo and Asia may have called David.
Does it happen a lot, wiretapping?
Not that frequently.
Right.
I think that this case, even the prosecutors have said, because of the decomposition state of Celeste, and because of the way the laws are set up, if David was only found guilty of dismembering a corpse, it's basically like a misdemeanor in California. It's not this huge felony. So I think they were really trying to nail him for the murder, which seems like it took a lot of time. But I tend to agree with this one netizen statement online, which is, it doesn't make sense that David had accomplices. Because one person theorizes, an accomplice with any emotional investment in this would be looking at this and freaking out. They would get rid of the body. The incinerator, the shovels, the chainsaws, the pool, all the phone evidence that's found. While he's out on tour, the accomplice could have had the perfect time of driving away with the body so that it wouldn't look like he'd done it, maybe even pretending to steal the car or at least dispose of the pool, other items. I mean, if David is reckless, that doesn't mean an accomplice would be willing to be reckless just because. You know that feeling when you come home late from work and those puppy dog eyes just pierce right through your soul? Or when you're packing for a trip and your cat refuses to leave your suitcase? Yet we've all been there. Pet parent guilt is real, and you know what? It's completely normal. That's exactly why Hill's Pet Nutrition exists. They understand that being a pet parent means being human. With all of our imperfections and daily juggling acts, Hill's science-led nutrition helps you give more love than humanly possible. Whether it's those long work days or trying to balance attention between multiple pets, Hill's Pet Nutrition gets it. They've created science-based nutrition that supports your pet's lifelong health so you can feel confident even when life gets hectic. Because you're only human. There's Hills. Science does more. Ready to let go of the guilt? Find the right food at hillspet.com/podcast. That's hillspet.com/podcast. David's attorney, Blair Burke, is proud of what she is doing. Like, maybe she's not proud about representing David, but you never know. She represented Harvey Weinstein previously, and she stated in an interview, "I am a feminist." Which, I mean, I think you can be a criminal defense attorney and be a feminist. That's not what I'm saying. Also, I guess it's not feminist to judge other women, but there's just a lot of statements that she made in this interview that are unhinged. She says, in terms of sexual harassment, in terms of misconduct even, that's a conversation we should have. But these are very complicated conversations because human interactions, sexuality, and sexual conduct is on a continuum. But while it's unacceptable or not allowed of us in a workplace, for instance, someone with more power to abuse their power by being vulgar or boorish or putting their hand on a woman when it's not wanted, it's important not to conflate that with rape. Every one of these acts is not rape. Every one of these acts is not a crime. It is definitely something we should be talking about, but it's not necessarily something we should criminalize. She continues, one of those very uncomfortable truths is that there are women who engaged in sexual contact with a man in situations when they're not necessarily attracted to that man, but that more powerful man was offering them something they wanted. Advancement, the Golden Globe, something they want, and they decided to have that sexual encounter in order to get that, intentionally, consensually, and later regret that they did that. We can decide that that is a fundamentally coercive act and should criminalize it. But right now, it's not a crime, and I believe it shouldn't be a crime. I believe one of the dangerous things about what's happening here is we're treating women as children. We are infantilizing women.
She's talking about this case?
No, so this is an interview that she did around the time that she's representing Harvey Weinstein. Oh. So this is not particularly about David's case, but this is how she views what she does for work. She says, we are infantilizing women. It's a thing as feminists we don't want to do, which is to claim that a woman doesn't have the ability to choose. This is a very, very high-profile celebrity attorney, by the way. She's represented Mel Gibson, Leonardo DiCaprio, Cameron Diaz, Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears, Caitlyn Jenner, Halle Berry, Queen Latifah, Kanye West, Reese Witherspoon, but also Harvey Weinstein. It seems that her career trajectory went from representing a lot of celebrities for celebrity-like crimes, divorces, intoxication, paparazzi run-ins. But after repping Harvey Weinstein, it seems like she's become a defender of those that have been accused of SA. Which is dangerous, considering she believes and says things like this, or at least it's dangerous in my opinion, right? I think it's dangerous. But what do I know? She says things like, the idea of someone going on Instagram or Twitter and making accusations all of a sudden, that's enough to destroy a life. I don't think any of us want to accept that, and we shouldn't. Because when they come to our son or our father or our husband, we would want someone to care about the process. It's also really dangerous because with that comes this horrible slogan, believe women, as if some gender, by definition, only speaks the truth. She also says that the statute of limitations is very important, but even the way she phrases it, she says, if you were a victim of a crime, you need to report it, and there are reasons for it, because the freshness of it allows it to be a reflection of evidence. If you wait 20 years just because you didn't feel like it, that creates a problem. No victim waits 20 years to go to the authorities because they just didn't feel like it, because they felt like they had other things that they wanted to do. And in the interview, she does the thing that makes me just makes one instantly question her. She says, my colleague, Alan Dershowitz. Alan fucking Dershowitz. Alan fucking lives in the Epstein files, Dershowitz. Okay, so she mentions an op-ed that he wrote, so there's that. But what do you expect from the woman who literally has said, quote, just because you're a woman and make a claim on Instagram doesn't make you a victim? I do think that defense attorneys play an integral part of our justice system, and sure, it is her job, but she really did not have to do this interview. She really did not have to say these things, and also say that she's a feminist while saying that just because a girl has an Instagram and an accusation doesn't make her a victim, putting down women in such a condescending manner when they are probably going through some of the most traumatic moments of their lives, to trivialize that, to be a girl on social media, you're not a victim, is just so, like, it's harmful in ways that I can't even begin to express. Yes, she can be a criminal defense attorney and a feminist, and she probably could represent people who have been accused of SA and be all those three things at once. But to me, I can't fathom how you can be a feminist and say these specific things. I don't think that anyone was upset with her for representing Harvey Weinstein. I mean, yeah, people were, but I think these comments in the interview are pretty asinine. David retained Blair Burke last year when Celeste's body was first discovered in his car. He has since added Marilyn Bednarski, a death penalty defense attorney in LA, because technically David could face the death penalty. She's also just very experienced with over 100 jury trials tried in federal court under her belt. As well as Regina Peter from Blair Burke's firm. The judge presiding over the case is Judge Charlene Olmedo. She is a former prosecutor. She runs a strict program. She has a reputation of precision, fairness, composure. A lot of attorneys have stated you don't show up to her courtroom unless you're prepared. She has presided over the very high-profile trial of Danny Masterson, that 70s Show's actor that was accused and convicted of SA. He was the one where I think a lot of people, this might ring a bigger bell. Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis wrote those character witness statements in favor of Danny Masterson, the man that is convicted of SA. And they did this whole weird apology video that was weird.
They were intended for the judge to read. And not to undermine the testimony of the victims. And we're sorry.
But during the sentencing, she tells Danny Masterson, I know you're sitting here steadfast in your claims of innocence, and thus no doubt feeling victimized by a justice system that you feel has failed you. And I'm sure you're asking yourself how you can be convicted of each charge of a sexual incident occurring 20 years ago based on the testimony of a woman that you believe is disgruntled and has a vendetta against you. But you are not convicted on the testimony of one person, although the testimony of one person is sufficient evidence. You are not convicted based on rumors, innuendo, gossip, or speculation. You are convicted based on the testimony and evidence that 12 people from the community found to be credible. In addition, shortly after you paid Jane Doe 1 approximately $400,000 to keep quiet about the charged incident, and while some may argue whether you believed her story was true or not, you just didn't want the bad publicity. She was seeking money from you close to $500,000. An awful lot to pay for the silence about an incident you claim never happened. That's a bad look. So Mr. Masterson, you are not the victim here. Your actions 20 years ago took away another person's voice and choice. Ultimately, one way or another, you will have to come to terms that with both your prior actions and subsequent consequences. She then slapped him with the maximum sentence, stating, as to count 1, a violation of penal code, I sentenced Mr. Masterson to be imprisoned in state prison for a term of 15 years to life. Count 2, in prison for 15 years to life. I order them to run consecutive. So you can be, your terms can be concurrent, which means served at the same time, which I don't understand the purpose of that. So it's like both, let's say you have 15 years, technically you would think it's 30, but they're like, you can serve them simultaneously, concurrently, so you only serve 15 years. But she said consecutively. So charge 1, 15 years. Once that's up, another 15 years. The total sentence is 30 years to life. There have been a few hearings in court so far, all ramping up to the preliminary hearing. And the first 3 hearings, I will say the defense team, Blair Burke, seemed a bit not as collected as Deputy DA Beth Silverman.
So I'm assuming she's very, very expensive, right? In that caliber.
Yeah. I don't know for sure, but there were estimates that Danny Masterson's trial, because he also had a really high profile team, probably cost him like $5-10 million easily. And that was SA charges. This is, we're already talking about lots of discovery, lots of evidence, and a murder charge. Potentially death penalty. A lot of people are like, how can David afford Blair Burke? I don't necessarily know how much David has made previously in his career, but he was dropped from his label. And it sounds like a bad thing, right? It's like, oh, he was dropped from his label, which means he's not making any more money. When the Celeste body was found, he was dropped from his label. However, it kind of almost gave him the rights to his songs back. Like, he doesn't have to split as much licensing, it appears. So he's still getting, even on Spotify, he's still getting like 23 million streams a month. I tried to cross-reference with how much other artists were reporting on Reddit that they were getting paid as being the sole owner of their songs. I mean, he still probably has to pay royalties to the people who co-wrote the songs, helped produce the songs. But it's...
Doesn't he make his own stuff in the closet?
Yeah, but there's lots of producers that worked on his Withered album. And he could potentially be making close to like $1 million a month from streams.
Dang.
I don't know, because streaming is like such a weird... I'm just going based off of what people said on Reddit of how much they make per stream on certain platforms. And then I tried adding it up. My math could be horribly off, so don't trust me on this.
20 million listens right now?
23 million on Spotify. That's not including Apple Music or other streaming platforms. The only place that he's not making money is YouTube. So YouTube very quickly demonetized his account. So none of his music videos are bringing in money. Yeah. Wow. I think that he's going to end up using most, if not all, and more on his legal defense team. And I do think anything after that is, I mean, I do hope that Celeste's family bring on a civil suit. Wow. But I don't even know what would be left at that point. So it seems like Blair Burke is familiarizing herself with everything going on. She doesn't seem as quick with it as Deputy DA Beth Silverman, which is to be expected. It seems that Silverman has been working on this case for at least months and months and months and months. However, there are rumors that Blair Burke might not even take this case to trial. Someone who claims that they have worked with Blair Burke before states that she has a tendency to take on celebrity cases before really looking into them, and that she probably may quit sometime during the trial or before the trial. One Reddit comment is talking about the person that knows Blair Burke. He apparently has a YouTube channel. He's an attorney. I think it's like Bruce Lawyer. And they write, he says that she predicts she's going to step down before it even goes to trial, either because the family runs out of money or because she won't like what she sees in Discovery or because it'll be obvious that he did it. And she's already said some bold things about this case that she's like, oh, it's going to show he didn't do it. People are also saying Blair Burke doesn't necessarily seem like the type to do murder trials. She seems like the Hollywood fixer type. But she did say in a previous interview, I never hesitate to get a client. That's what I love. That's what I do. The most important time for a criminal defense lawyer is when the mob is out, right? I'm very proud of what I'm doing as a woman, as a feminist, as a criminal defense lawyer. We as women should not want injustice. But as for Blair Burke, one comment reads, she doesn't do many homicide trials. Her last murder client got life in prison, so not a stellar record there. That's what they write. Now, during the first few hearings in court, David appeared to be emotionless. He doesn't really show a lot of emotions, just kind of looking around the courtroom. But he's not intently looking around the courtroom. It's just like he's just kind of gazing out, seeing what's going on.
Is that like the video clip that we saw?
Yes. That was not Judge Almedo. That was a different judge for his arraignment. And Judge Almedo is not a fan of cameras in the courtroom. This is a state case, which usually lots of state cases are live streamed. I highly doubt this will be live streamed.
How do you know she's not a fan of the cameras?
So the same thing happened with Diddy's trial, where all these legacy medias, they have attorneys representing them, and they'll come and they'll try to talk to the judge in open court. So this is all in like court transcripts. Okay. And they'll be like, hey, we need to either see something or we want cameras in the courtroom. So in this case, the attorney came up and was like, I'm representing legacy media, and listing all the media companies, and like, we want cameras in the courtroom. And she's like, no. Really? She's just like, no.
Dang.
She's like, it's up to me, and no. And she's citing the law too. She's citing codes, like law codes. She's like, because of this, no. I can say no because of no. So I don't think she's going to allow cameras in the courtroom, which might be for the best. This is kind of similar to Luigi's trial in New York City, which is the first trial is going to be in state court, not federal court. So we know federal court, there's no cameras in the courtroom. State court, a lot of judges will let cameras in. It's up to the discretion of the judges, but Luigi's judge also does not seem to be a fan of cameras. But he looks kind of bored. That's the best way to describe David. He just kind of looks bored. There hasn't really been any notable intel about how he looks in any of the hearings. He just looks distant, bored, unengaged. Except the last one, he apparently winked at his attorney, allegedly.
What do you mean? Just a quick wink?
Yeah, they were able to push back his preliminary hearing by a month. And it's reported that after hearing that, when David was led back, he winked at his attorney. I don't know. Maybe there was something in his eye. It could have been a lint ball. It could have been a wink. But that's been the reporting. So he looks bored, and he has pled not guilty, and his attorneys have stated,
we believe the actual evidence will show David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, nor was he the cause of her death. And we would like to be able to have the evidence come into the light of day at the earliest opportunity.
Meanwhile, the prosecutors are like, oh, you want the evidence to come into light of day? We're going to drop a pre-preliminary hearing brief. Okay, this is where there's so much like legal context, and I don't know how many people care about this, but it might be important. If you watch the very first audio episode of the updates, I kind of went into the grand jury, charging grand juries, which result in an indictment. So there's multiple ways that someone can get arrested in state court in California, which is a grand jury comes with a true bill of indictment. So they voted. The DA went to the grand jurors and was like, can you vote? They're like, yes, here we go. Indictment. David Burke gets arrested. He's indicted. You see this happen in federal cases because that's how it always happens in federal cases. Indictment, arrest. Right? Or it's like arrest and then we find out about the indictment, but it's already been filed. So then in California, this is not that common.
What's not common? Indictment?
Indictments are not common in the state of California on a state level.
Oh, okay.
And that's because, for example, in a lot of places, when you get indicted, you don't really get a preliminary hearing.
Okay.
Because you've already been indicted. So they're like, yeah, you can go to trial. A preliminary hearing, what that is the prosecution presents evidence to the judge. And the judge decides if they're going to go to trial. Okay. The judge has to be like, okay, this is enough evidence that we have to try the case. I'm not saying you're guilty, but we have to try the case. So that's the whole purpose of a preliminary hearing. And lots of DAs, if they don't want a preliminary hearing.
Because they don't want to give away their
and also the defense in the preliminary hearing can actually prepare and ask questions to the witnesses that the prosecutors are bringing up. They can basically cross-examine witnesses, like a mini cross.
Yeah.
They don't like that. The DAs are like, we don't like that. That's annoying. We don't like it. Yeah. Now, in the state of California, even if you are indicted, you can legally request a preliminary hearing. So it's kind of pointless. It's pointless because you're indicted. So in most cases, like a federal case, you're going straight to trial. I mean, you're going to have tons of status conferences and all these things and hearings, but you're going to trial.
Yeah. Why are we doing another?
Yeah. But in the state of California, you can request it anyway. So people will usually just file a criminal complaint, which is the DA files a criminal complaint and then the suspect is arrested or the target is arrested, whatever. At any point, there needs to be a decision made where there is enough evidence to go to trial.
Yeah.
Right? Indictment, the grand jurors decide there is enough evidence to go to trial.
Right.
So on a federal level, they just go to trial.
Yeah.
If they plead not guilty, right? They go to trial. But in California state, even if the grand jurors say there's enough to go to trial, the defendant can say, no, I want the judge to reconfirm this basically. I want a preliminary hearing. Okay? But there was no indictment in this. Just a criminal complaint. David is arrested, then there's a criminal complaint. So now someone needs to decide if there's enough to go to trial, which is they have to have a preliminary hearing.
Right.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Preliminary hearings, legally, the defendant is allowed those in a timely manner. I think it's like 10 court days. So if within 10 court days, the prosecutors can't pull it off, or the prosecutors are unprepared, they do the preliminary hearing, the judge is like, you guys have nothing. Yeah. Then the defendant is free to go. Like, you can't just keep them until you're ready to do a preliminary hearing. Right. So the defendant is usually like, okay, maybe we'll go with the preliminary hearing if they feel like there's not enough evidence.
Right.
So Blair Burke, she's coming into these court hearings and she's like, yes, my client would like a timely preliminary hearing. Let's schedule it. So the first schedule was like May 1st. Okay. Then they're like, we need some of the information that the prosecutors have so we can prepare for the preliminary hearing. And this is where it gets very tricky because just like the law, it's the defense is entitled to discovery for the trial. Like there is different, but you're not entitled to all the discovery for the preliminary hearing.
Yeah.
There's like certain benchmarks I think they have to meet, like certain discovery they have to turn over. So it's been like a whole headache. And then it got pushed to May 26th. And then the defense is like, maybe we need a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So now it's June 29th. And this is the thing. I mean, the fact that they were even wanting it so soon is unheard of. Usually, the defendants don't want a quick preliminary hearing. They want the defense to prepare as long as possible. They want to go through the discovery. They want to study it. They want to know, kind of what to expect, who they expect to testify, to cross-examine. And now, I don't think any of the star witnesses are going to testify. Just putting that out there, I think it's going to be lots of police officers, and I think it's going to be forensic experts.
So this is what I'm getting out of this is that at first David's team was like, okay, let's just do this thing because they think they maybe can get away with it. Let's just get it over with.
Yeah, sometimes from what I can tell online is, and from lawyers who have been speaking up about this, is that a defendant will push the attorney to want it sooner because they're like, I just want to get out of here. Like like, come on.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And then as the day started to approach, they were like, wait, hold on. We need to be better prepared. Can you guys give me more information? So that's when the real,
Yeah. I think there was a lot of conversation and even almost fear-mongering of people saying, well, he wasn't indicted, so the prosecutors might not be ready. The prosecutors have no idea what they're doing because he wasn't indicted, and it already took 7 months to arrest him. Like, they're a mess. But in the state of California, on a state level, most felony charges do not come with an indictment. They come with a criminal complaint, and there is a prelim.
Okay, so you're saying you think they're totally ready.
Yeah, and then just like seeing the way Beth Silverman is conducting herself in these hearings, she seems like she knows what the fuck
up. The DA, right?
She's the deputy DA. She's in charge of this case, yes. Yeah. But there was also questions of, David was arrested before the criminal complaint. So maybe the LAPD arrested them and the DA's office is scrambling, right? But it doesn't seem like that. Beth Silverman is coming here locked and loaded. She seems like she's been ready.
She's the one that said there's 40 terabytes of
evidence. Yes, right. Yes. And the defense was saying things like, we hope all the evidence will come to light and see the light of day. And that is when the prosecutors drop the pre-preliminary hearing brief, which is a bit unusual. People don't really drop it at this stage. But it seems like they had the opening. The defense was already like, we want the evidence to come to light. Prosecutors are like, okay, bet. Like, we're going to drop this brief. And also, it's a way to control the narrative for them. And it's, I guess, in a good way, it's to educate the judge on what has been happening behind the scenes. So that the judge is also very aware. Wow. Now, Blair Burke and her team did not like that. They were like, we got to seal this shit. Seal it. This cannot be public. Blair Burke said, Your Honor, late this morning, we received a digital copy of what appeared to be a pre-preliminary hearing brief filed by the prosecution. I come to the court with a very serious concern given I think what can be characterized as the extreme media attention so far in this case. And the prosecution has appeared to file a rather unusual, in my experience, pre-preliminary hearing brief that appears to be a very one-sided version of what is anticipated as the evidence in this case. But no evidence has been presented by the prosecution in a courtroom. Certainly there has been no adjudication of the admissibility of that evidence. There's no ruling, basically, of if that evidence is, enough to go to trial. And we have a very real concern about the reasonable possibility of the jury pool at a future trial being tainted. She goes on to say that the brief even includes hearsay. Your Honor, we would ask the court to seal the people's brief. We've come at the earliest possible opportunity to do so. Beth Silverman hits back. I've certainly never heard of the defense claiming that a people's filing is one-sided. I'm laying out what I believe to be the evidence that's been unearthed over the last several months and what the people intend to present the court during a preliminary hearing. It's interesting because whenever I handle these types of cases that tend to garner media attention, by the time the trial rolls around, which is, as the court is aware, years down the road usually, many people on the panels don't even know about the case. Beth Silverman goes on to state, we've had cases that garnered much more media attention than this one, and I can think of one that's going on right now. I think she's referencing Nick Reiner.
Really?
I
okay.
think.
What is she saying about it?
No, she's just saying I can think of one right now that's getting more attention than this one. I think that's a reference to Nick Reiner. But I mean, this is LA County. Like, you're talking about Menendez brothers. ASAP Rocky was recently tried. Like, it's LA County.
Yeah.
She goes on to state more or less, hey, so, I mean, we're going to even bring all this to open court in a few weeks anyway. So what do you mean you want it sealed? Like, there's nothing in there that's going to be sealed in open court. Like, what kind of logic is that, basically? That's what Beth Silverman is saying. And she says, but I'd certainly like to see what the legal authority is that counsel claims it has before I make any other statements. Blair Burke argues, it's an entirely one-sided narrative regarding what the prosecution believes they will seek to admit in court at the preliminary hearing, or what the prosecution claims will be the testimony in a preliminary hearing of witnesses. We do have a very real concern about the amount of white-hot focus of attention on this case for the last 7 months, and specifically in the last 2 weeks. And we are very much concerned with guaranteeing David the right, as he is presumed innocent in this courtroom as we sit here today, the right to a fair trial. And we believe that this brief, if not sealed, will harm and compromise that right. The judge sides with Beth Silverman, the people, that she will not be sealing the brief, hitting on the fact that LA County is the most populous county in the entire nation. LA County routinely has high-profile cases, including celebrities, and, quote, this case is not unique in that aspect. And I know, Ms. Burke, and this is not to undermine your own characterization of extreme media attention, in this court's experience, this media attention is no different than the court has seen in other high-profile cases.
Wow.
As for her saying that the people's brief is one-sided, she's like, well, yeah, it's the people's brief, not the defense's brief. She says it's their brief, just like any filing by the defense would be one-sided in the sense that it would be a proponent of the defense position. Naturally, it's going to be one-sided, basically. Why would the people put in your 2 cents? The defense is like, okay, fine. We want to quickly get a preliminary hearing. And we want a lot of this discovery right now. Blair Burke was saying, this is like before she kept pushing it back. She's like,
from the media reports, apparently there have been 4 months of secret grand jury proceedings. We believe that Mr. Burke is entitled at the earliest opportunity to an open preliminary hearing and the proceedings not be done in secret.
So this is like, they keep pushing it back and back and back. And
wait, so they wanted it quick in that moment.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they keep pushing it back after that. Okay.
She also states that she wants discovery, that they have no discovery, basically.
We have been given almost no discovery thus far. We've received a 3-page follow-up report, no autopsy report, and a copy of the complaint. And we would ask the people respectfully to produce discovery at the earliest opportunity.
Your Honor, as I've indicated to counsel, there's approximately 40 terabytes of discovery in this case. Moreover, in order to obtain the transcripts from a grand jury investigation, counsel has to file a motion.
So she's like, Blair Burke is asking me for grand jury transcripts. Counsel has to file a motion. She knows the way the system works.
Mm-hmm.
She's
not doing it?
So she's like saying, oh, I didn't get the grand jury transcripts. And Beth is like, you didn't file a motion to get them.
Yeah.
Okay, she didn't say it like that.
Yeah. So Beth is like, she doesn't know what she's doing.
She knows the way the system works. I'm not able to gather those. They have to be provided after the court orders them released because it was an investigation. Second of all, if counsel plans on going to a preliminary hearing within the 10 days, it is unlikely that there will be very much discovery provided within that period, given the voluminous nature and how long it's going to take to copy onto drives. In addition to that, the coroner's report was sealed in this case in order to prevent it from hampering truthful testimony from witnesses that testified at the grand jury. So an order will also have to be obtained.
Which is kind of interesting to think about, but...
Wait, why is it interesting? Oh,
yeah.
Like, how would anybody know? Mm-hmm. So they're implying they don't want someone potentially know the state of...
Or how she died.
How she died to tell a lie or match. Okay. Wow.
Or it could be like the TV shows where nothing has been released and someone's like, yeah, I didn't know he stabbed her. And they're like, who said she was stabbed? Right. Something like that.
So does David's team seem underprepared or just don't?
from what I saw, I'm sure Blair Burke is on her shit. And it seems like with every hearing, she's more on her shit, okay? But if he's paying that much, I mean, at that point, like, get Brian Steele in there as well. Like, it's just, she doesn't seem to be as quick with all these little things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because usually when you are paying that much money, the defense, I mean, you're expecting them to be sharper than the prosecutors, no offense. Right? Because like these are the top level.
Yeah, they're making the big bucks.
Yeah.
That's why they get
Millions.
paid. Millions on millions.
Yeah, like you're expecting they're going to run circles around the prosecution.
Yeah.
But.
Wow, okay.
Not saying prosecutors are not as intelligent. They're just overworked. They got a lot of cases going on. They're underpaid. They're overworked. So the prosecutors are like, you guys want a preliminary hearing and you want all the discovery. I'm telling you right now, you're not going to get that because there's so much evidence. It's going to take longer than even 15 days to get you the evidence that you want. Throughout the investigation, we've accrued approximately 50 terabytes of data. Over the last approximately month, maybe 5 weeks, Robbery Homicide Division has been trying to upload their entire investigative file through a system that the county purchased for the DA's office, where we're all supposed to be able to share information with defense counsel directly. After approximately 4.5 weeks, 5 weeks, only 30% of the LAPD's case file has been uploaded, and that is using multiple computers. There is a voluminous amount of digital data in this case. She also gives us an idea of what kind of evidence there will be. There are police reports and documents from the LAPD, from the Sheriff's Department, from the CHP. There's body-worn video. There are numerous forensic reports, including DNA trace evidence, field investigative unit services, chemical processing. There are property reports. There are vehicle reports. There are arrest and booking reports. All of those things we are going to endeavor to turn over, hopefully tomorrow afternoon. Overall, Beth Silverman seems super confident. David's team seems a little less confident. There are a lot of interesting moments where David's team seem... Okay, maybe like it just takes a second for them to get into the groove of things, but there's this moment where the defense requests the judge to unseal the search warrants. We'd ask that we'd orally move to unseal them so that the court can issue an order. So that like we're just asking through mouth. The court is like, yeah, I'm not sure I can issue just a general order to unseal search warrants without specific case numbers. I don't have a problem with issuing an order, but I think I would need to have the specific, and by case number, it wouldn't be this case number. Beth Silverman talks to a detective, and she's like, okay, I'll get you all the warrant numbers. And later, Blair Burke is like, by the way, I brought you this 5 terabyte drive for you since you told me last time in open court that the 1 terabyte drive I gave you wasn't enough.
Wait.
Okay, so previously, Blair Burke gave Beth Silverman a 1 terabyte drive. Okay, which like is notoriously not a lot. Like this is 1 terabyte. There have been FOIA requests that we've done where they're like, send us a fucking 1 terabyte drive. And it's like police reports, right? So I'm assuming in this case, it's massive and they're sending a 1 terabyte drive. Okay.
And she knows there's
50
terabytes.
So then she sends a 1 terabyte drive and Beth Silverman in open court is like, what did you think you were going to do with that? Like, what do you want us to do with that? That's nothing. We need a lot more than that. Like you keep asking us for discovery and you give us a 1 terabyte drive. So then she's like, by the way, I brought this 5 terabyte drive. Okay. She's like waving it around, I think. Now, they want specifically before this prelim, it seems that the defense clearly want the iCloud data. This is iCloud from David's iCloud account. They want that.
What? That's what they want?
And by the way, the CSAM is not going to be on there. We're going to get into that in a second, but they want the iCloud data. Whatever's on that iCloud, I don't know.
What is on that iCloud?
Yeah.
Photos?
Probably.
Photos? Voice memo, maybe?
Notes apps these days. People have been doing lots of notes apps. He seems like the type to do that. Yeah, so they're like, we want the iCloud data. Beth Silverman was like, that iCloud data in totality, just the iCloud data is probably like 8 terabytes, which this has been, again, misspoken in the news and on Reddit of like, oh, it's 8 terabytes of CSAM. It's just 8 terabytes of iCloud data. And none of the CSAM is going to be on there, obviously. They can't just like hand over CSAM like that. So Beth Silverman is like, okay, we'll get your fast 5 terabyte hard drive out of here. She doesn't say it like that, but more or less. She is like, absolutely... I will say absolutely under no circumstances did she say that. I'm just making things up. It just sounds like that, okay? She's like, I'm sorry. Just so counsel's aware and I'm sure the court knows this, we cannot place an item that is larger than the capacity of the drive you provided us on 2 different drives. She's like legally speaking, we don't do this. I can't split up evidence. So if the iCloud data is 8 terabytes, I can't put 4 on this one and 4 on the other one. You gotta at least give me a 10 terabyte drive, and I can put all the 8 terabytes in that 10 terabyte drive. So basically, get your ass 5 terabyte drive out of here. Is that not? And Beth Silverman is like, it cannot be split. These are direct transcripts, not the 5 terabyte drive, but like the rest of it. Blair Burke says so. Beth Silverman says it cannot be split. I heard that for the first time today. We will do that and deliver it tomorrow. So she's like, I'll get you your 10 terabyte drive tomorrow. And she says, great. And also going forward, I've been informed that when you give up a hard drive, it needs to be sealed. In other words, you know, you give us an open box. We need a sealed hard drive, like in the original packaging. Okay? So.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe I'll see her in her full glory soon, I guess. But it's interesting. It's just interesting. Oh, and speaking of the CSAM, so the CSAM evidence, the way that they do it is, at least in this county, is they're going to put it on a law enforcement computer. That CSAM will be placed in the courthouse in a very specific room that only the defense and the prosecutors can access. And the defense will have to go there and view the CSAM, or an expert will have to go and view the CSAM on that specific computer. They can't bring it back. They can't have it on their devices, because even just having it on a device is illegal, even if it's for work, right? So, yeah. Which, I mean, Blair Burke knows that, and she's like, yeah, absolutely. So it's not a problem. I'm just saying it was a part of the conversation. Yeah. Because I guess there were some concerns of like, maybe David would like to see certain things, right? Now, netizens think that the defense probably will not be insanity. It doesn't seem like there can be even a viable insanity plea, which, I mean, hardly ever works to begin with. But there's just so many times you can see he's in the right state of mind, protecting his tour, protecting his music, performing. A lot of people think that the defense will be that Celeste OD'd and that he is just responsible for freaking out and getting rid of her body, or trying to get rid of her body. In the autopsy report, it looked like she tested positive for drugs being in her system. Those were presumptive positives. So this is the initial basic toxicology, which is just like a basic thing that they do for all the autopsies. But how a lot of things could come back positive because of other compounds that are found in the body through the decomposition process, such as meth, MDMA. But when they did further testing, those came back not detected. Other things that were found in her system were low amounts of ethanol, basically alcohol in her system, which we all know is naturally formed during the decomposition process. So really, there doesn't seem to be drugs in her system that the defense could point to and say, see, she OD'd. I think the only thing the defense really has is everything the autopsy doesn't say. So the autopsy says the manner of death is homicide, and by 2 penetrating wounds. But it doesn't say who's holding the knife, right? So it doesn't say it is a knife. It doesn't say it's David holding the knife. So I think that's going to be the main focus. I don't necessarily think they could even point the finger at anybody else, but I really don't know what the defense is going to be. These are just speculations. I just can't imagine what the defense is. As for, did David's family know? That's been a huge topic of conversation because the court document states, this is the pre-preliminary hearing brief that Blair Burke wanted sealed. Throughout 2024, the victim spent a significant amount of time with the defendant, including summer weekends at his home in the Hollywood Hills and traveling with him to Las Vegas, London, and Texas to meet his family. People cannot grasp the concept that David's parents believed that she was of age. She clearly doesn't look of age in any photos and videos that I've ever seen of Celeste. She clearly looks like a minor. Online sentiment agrees with that. The family have reportedly been very, very close with David. It seems like, there's footage of his sister going up on stage. There's alleged videos and photos from the concert at the Fonda Theater where Celeste is sitting with his parents in the VIP section. One comment writes, apparently David was telling people she was 19 and a college student at USC. And maybe that flies with his friends. Like, maybe that is okay if he's brought to a huge house party where the lights are dim and everybody's drunk and you're just like, oh yeah, this is my girlfriend, she's 19. I don't know if people would question in that context, especially if it's like a very passing greeting of like, hi. Mm-hmm. I think if you hung out with Celeste multiple times, you would know she's a minor. Like that, I just can't wrap my head around the fact that someone could argue that they don't know, but I don't know. If you see her in passing, maybe. Now, if you're bringing someone home to your parents and you say she's 19 and she's a student at USC, his dad is an attorney, his mom is a teacher, I can't imagine that they would believe that. I just don't see that happening.
You know, was high school, middle school teacher? Is it?
I don't know. But I mean, she has children around that age. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
It doesn't make any sense to me. She looks so young in all of her pictures. I know people are probably going to try to do the whole adultification thing of young girls where they're like, she's mature for, she looks 11. I don't know. I don't know how they could even possibly believe that. They did know, however, that David was at least being investigated before his arrest because they were subpoenaed to the grand jury hearings earlier in 2026. And that's part of why the information got leaked that there was a grand jury investigation into David, because all of this is sealed. So it gets leaked in two big ways. So the first of them is that David's parents and his brother Caleb, the three of them, Caleb is now 18, they fight the subpoena. They're in Texas and they file a petition of habeas corpus contending that the court's order summoning them to testify in California violates due process. So this is public. So like they have to reference the grand jury investigation and they have to reference that David is the target of the investigation.
That's how people found out?
Yeah. So that's how they're like, oh, we can confirm for sure there's grand jury investigations into David. Because otherwise it's sealed. And then Neo gets arrested and it's kind of like, okay, now we can like definitely confirm again, once more, that this is happening.
But they did end up going?
No.
The families?
No, yeah.
Oh.
They've still been fighting it out in court.
Okay.
Yeah. So the DA's office fought telling the judge in Texas. I would say if a car with a dismembered, decomposing body is registered to your home address, because David's car was registered to Texas, you should expect to be questioned by the authorities about that. And that's what this is, Judge. I'm asking you to find that the family witnesses are necessary and material, and I'm asking you to find that it will not cause them undue hardship. As for the Burke parents, their attorney argues on their behalf. If the DA needs parents to testify, then they have no case. In my opinion, they're just doing that for harassment purposes. If a proper subpoena was issued, they would have already spoken. The attorney has stated that the Burke family has been somewhat aware that an arrest was a possibility, which is kind of crazy. Yeah. Which, side note, David also transferred 2 of his Houston houses to a trust under his mom's name. I believe his mom is the beneficiary of the trust. That was back in September of last year. So he moved quick with that. Really quick.
Wait, September? The body was found in September?
Yeah. And within like 10 days, he moved the house to his mom, both houses. And
that must be in the work already then.
Yes, maybe. If I'm not mistaken, that's a very lengthy process to move a house, title deed, whatever, to a trust, to like move ownership. I'm sure you have to get, I don't know if he has a mortgage. Like lots of people are involved.
Yeah. He for sure started that before.
Or got it done very quickly.
Right.
But it seems like that was a huge priority then at that time is all I can say.
Wow.
But through the attorney, the family has made a statement stating the parents are sad and disappointed that David was arrested. However, they fully stand behind him and believe he is innocent. They fully support him. Caleb, this is David's 18-year-old brother. He was seen in that video with Celeste and his little sister at the Fonda Theater. He has unfollowed David on Instagram since David's arrest. He takes to his story to write, all pedophiles and rapists should die, period. So that was kind of the very first statement that he ever made. During the grand jury investigations, because he also filed a habeas corpus to not testify in front of the grand jury, people thought that he was probably on the same sentiment that David's parents were on, which is they're going to stand by David. But then he posted that. And so people were wondering, okay, well, clearly this is in the context of everything happening. It seems like he could really only be talking about David, right? Is what people were thinking. Then he was also seen liking comments like "Justice for Celeste." After David's arrest, though, around the time of David's arrest, Caleb starts releasing more music. I will say that he didn't just kickstart his career after David's arrest. This is not like a new thing, which I do think would be very problematic. He has been releasing music for a long time, for like the past 3 or 4 years. He actually went under a different stage name. So he went from being Caleb with a V, so CVLEB. That was his stage name, similar to like David. But then he changed it to Karakova to further distance himself from his brother. So he released 2 songs. One was titled Sex, which kind of sent the internet off on a witch hunt of people accusing Caleb at best being insensitive, at worst being involved. There were a lot of accusations being thrown about. Caleb Burke has since come out to state, quote, "I've been wanting to say something for a while, but I have to be careful about what I say. This is an ongoing legal matter. I don't want to make this horrible situation about me. I want justice for Celeste and her family. I've seen people say that I knew what was going on and was protecting my brother. This is not true at all. I have not lived with my brother for years and was not very close with him. We didn't speak often other than when our family was brought on tour or he was visiting home. I was around Celeste a few times when I was 15. I did not know her well, and I did not know her age." I think, I will say, maybe more believable when someone is 15 to not be able to identify. I think I give a lot more grace in this situation versus his parents.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'm like, you're 15, you probably don't know either, right? He continues, "People have been posting a video showing me backstage with her at one of David's concerts when I was 15, and I've been waiting to address it for a while." So when this video was circulating, some people were even thinking, what if Caleb and Celeste were dating? And like, there were so many weird internet theories, which turned out to be entirely false. But he writes, "People have gone as far to say that I was sneaking her backstage, which is not true. She was already at the show, and the video takes place after the show had already ended. In the video, we were sent to grab something from a fan that was in the front of the stage, and we were walking back." News companies such as TMZ, Daily Mail, and others have started saying that I'm taking advantage of the whole situation to promote my music and that I am just now launching my music career. That is not true at all. I've been releasing and posting music over the last 3 to 4 years, and I took over a half-year hiatus due to what happened. I changed my online name from Caleb to Kova as I did not want to associate myself with any of this. I have not once mentioned this situation or my identity on the new accounts. So on Karakova, he never mentions that he's David's brother. TMZ even reported my age incorrectly, saying that I'm 20 when I just turned 18 in November. I had scheduled my first release under the new name before any of this became a headline again, and the song came out 2 days before the arrest. This project, the music videos and songs, were already in motion long before any news coverage around my brother resurfaced. My intent has never been to use this to bring attention to myself or my music. This is the whole reason why I started over from scratch. My decision to continue releasing music is not about using any of this for attention. Music is my life, and after stepping away for months because of everything that's happened, I want to build my own path. Netizen reactions have been mixed. There are 2 groups of people. They're very divided. One group who believe that Caleb, David's brother, is being incredibly insensitive and tone deaf, with one person writing, "Even if Caleb had no malice in releasing music, at best it's still incredibly disrespectful and demonstrates a complete lack of empathy towards Celeste and her loved ones." I keep seeing comments following his statement along the lines of, "He shouldn't have to pause his life," or "There's never going to be a perfect time to do it," and find the lack of empathy towards Celeste and her loved ones absolutely abhorrent. No matter how you spin it, even if he had nothing to do with this case, he is someone who is way too close to this case for this to be anything but in bad taste. Anyone who says, quote, "There will never be a perfect time," is being willfully ignorant. Are you telling me there is truly no better time than right fucking now? One comment responds, "Justice for Celeste. I disagree though. If my brother killed somebody, what does that have to do with me? I didn't do it. Y'all need to remember that David Anthony Burke is the murderer, not David's family, not Celeste's family, not David's friends, not Victoria Mendez," which is the fake name he ordered supplies in. "It was David. Be mad at him." Another perspective reads, "First, nobody in this case deserves more sympathy and empathy than Celeste and the Rivas Hernandez family, but people should really give Caleb a break. He is not the same person as David. Just because his older brother made a terrible decision does not mean that Caleb should have to suffer. He has already disowned him on Instagram, stating that he thinks all rapists and pedophiles should die. He basically voice that he wants death for his own brother. Consider how Caleb is feeling, what he's going through right now, and he's human too. Imagine how difficult it would be to find out that your older brother, who you idolized and drew inspiration from, is not at all who you thought he was. Then, while trying to process that, you're constantly being criticized and hated on just for being related to him. Can we please try to have some more empathy here? He's 18. The dude is barely even an adult. One person comments, agreed. He denounced his brother's actions, and it's obviously not his fault. It's gotta suck to have that shame and stain on the family. And of course, you'd give your family member the benefit of the doubt until you saw evidence to the contrary. We didn't even find out anything till just a few weeks ago. I doubt he knew any more than we did. Predators are professionals at lying and hiding their behavior. Their families want to believe the best of them, so it's even harder for them to accept. If he was defending him in spite of the evidence, it'd be a different thing, but he isn't. His life and character shouldn't be ruined due to his brother's shitty choices. My heart goes out to him, because having a family member turn out to be a pedo and a murderer is a different kind of loss, one that you can't even really grieve without being looked at funny by the general public. It's got to be overwhelming AF, and I hope he has support beyond the parents who might be in denial for all we know. At least he came out and spoke on where he stands with it, which took a lot of spine in my opinion. Another comment disagrees though, writing, but just saying if he wanted to, he could release all this shit later. It wouldn't have been the end of the world. One person writes, I think the problem with the whole discussion of Caleb is that people are blurring the lines of this is tone deaf and poorly timed, and this proves malicious intent. That's why some of this starts feeling like a bias-driven witch hunt. The standard becomes impossible to satisfy. If he releases music now, he's capitalizing on the tragedy. If he waits 2 years, people would probably say he only waited for the backlash to cool down. If he speaks publicly, he's manipulating sympathy. If he stays silent, he doesn't care. Once literally every action is interpreted in the worst possible light, it stops being about fairness and starts being about emotional projection. And to be clear, I completely understand why people are disturbed by the timing and the lyrics, given the context of this case. The optics are awful, but this feels gross and insensitive. Is still very different from this guy is intentionally exploiting a murdered child for his career, his musical career. One is a reaction to optics and emotion. The other is a serious assumption about someone's motives with no direct evidence behind it. I will say, I think the part that stuck out to me is that out of everyone on David's, I don't want to say side, but people that were closer to David than Celeste, that have publicly spoken out, his brother seems to be the most transparent and straightforward with condemning David.
Yeah.
His own brother. And I think that you can tell from the videos. And again, this is not me saying, oh, David's brother deserves all of our sympathy. You can tell from a lot of the videos, he definitely looked up to his brother.
Is he well established at all? Does he have?
No.
Oh, so
no.
he's okay. Barely having. Okay.
Barely. I mean, he doesn't outright condemn his brother, but he basically does, you know? And so it seems like this is the most transparent response that someone from close to David has put out. Like far better than even Neo and Asia, who are older than Caleb and also were not related to David. As for Celeste's family, they told Rolling Stone that they are in unfathomable pain. There were rumors circulating that Celeste's parents were accepting money from David to hide the relationship. There were numbers thrown about anywhere between $9,000 a month to $15,000 a month that they were receiving this payout, that they were being financially supported by David. They have flat out rejected that rumor, stating, Celeste's dad says, I have never had any contact with this guy, and we haven't received any money from him or anyone in this family. The Hernandez family attorney states, I had the heartbreaking responsibility of informing the Rivas Hernandez family of the horrifying allegations in court that David Anthony Burke stabbed Celeste, stood by while she bled to death, used a chainsaw to cut off her limbs, and bought a burn cage with the plan to incinerate evidence. Delivering the news was the most difficult thing I've had to do in 37 years as a lawyer. He states for the family, the Rivas Hernandez family is absolutely devastated by the findings contained in the medical examiner's report involving the horrible and gruesome death of their beloved daughter. Those findings have caused profound emotional pain for the family. They respectfully ask for your privacy, understanding, and patience as they process this information. There are no words to express the indescribable pain the family is experiencing right now. They still have bills to pay and jobs to go to every day. All they want is time to grieve and heal. In another statement that's been released by the family, they say, we would like to thank the LAPD and DA's office for their hard work. We'd also like to thank the people of Lake Elsinore for all their support. Celeste was a beautiful, strong girl who loved to sing and dance. Every Friday night was movie night, and we spent wonderful times together. We love her very much, and she always told us that she loved us. We miss her deeply, and all we want is justice for Celeste. Some people don't like Celeste's family. Some people don't like the statements that they put out. Some people didn't like that specific statement, writing, "Why do you feel the need to mention that she always told you she loved you? Is this so no one thinks she hated you guys?" Some people are saying it's almost like an admittance of guilt. She told us she loved us, so we were attentive and loving parents. I do want to note that Celeste was reported missing the second time. The police did open an investigation into the family. Deputies interviewed everyone at Celeste's family home, and they found no evidence of child neglect. So they concluded their investigation, writing, "Since they were unable to locate Celeste, they were unable to determine if a crime had happened." And wow. I think there could be a lot of factors. There's no evidence. There's TikTok repost, random statements from people who claim they were friends with Celeste. There's TikTok reposts that allegedly Celeste made in an account, and even that's really hard to verify, where she might have liked things that insinuated that she had a rough home life. But I think having a rough home life is leagues away from having neglectful parents that played some sort of role in not protecting you enough. I think in a perfect world, every parent should protect their child in a way that they can't go missing, that they cannot be groomed. But that's a very perfect world, and there could be a lot of factors of why they didn't even feel comfortable going to the police. I think some people have drawn the speculation that Celeste's family didn't really bother to continue bothering the police about Celeste going missing because they didn't care. I don't think that's the case. I mean, you're also talking about a time that's heavy with probably ICE presence. Immigration status could also play a role. Socioeconomic status definitely plays a role. I mean, she was missing for so many months, and the police weren't really looking for her. So even if they had gone to the police every day, which we don't know if they did or did not, we don't know why the police weren't looking for her. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have already had dealt with the police and they know the police is not going to look for Celeste because, they didn't. They didn't look for a girl who's missing from a socioeconomically not a stable background. I'm sure if this was a missing girl from the Hollywood Hills, they would have looked for her. I think there's a lot of nuance that maybe we need to factor into this case. And I think out of everyone that the netizens should attack, Celeste's family is probably last on that list. London, however, has been a huge issue. The preliminary brief has stated that Celeste traveled to London with David, and traveling to London has been heavily just a point of contention because you cannot travel to a foreign country without your parents, without some sort of form being signed. Usually every country has different rules. She did have a passport card that was abandoned in Santa Barbara and found, remember? You know, the isolated highway stretch. So did her parents know that she was going to London? Was something forged? Was it not? I guess that's been a huge point of contention. Because London is brought up, we don't know if David had gone to London multiple times, but recently he was talking about working on the Withered album, writing the album, and he says that he went to London to write the album. So just another London connection, but he says, quote,
"I went to London for 2 weeks with 3 of my friends, and we just made a song every day for 2 weeks in London. I love London because of the gloomy aesthetic and the gloomy just vibe and environment that London has. There's barely any sun there, and I love that because the music I make is really sad. And then, so 2 weeks I made a song every day, came out with half the album, and then I went back to Houston for another 2 weeks, and I made the rest of the project on my phone just off of beats that people sent me."
So if that's the case, maybe this is the London trip in question. And if that is also correct, it seems like Celeste may have helped write a lot of the music, and that is bringing more lyrics up into discussion. There is a whole interlude, remember, of Celeste's voice, what seems to be Celeste's voice in this new album, the String Theory interlude.
Oh, yeah.
So the dots seem to all be connecting here. I do think that with Celeste's family, we can't really be so rigid with our thinking. I think this is, out of all the places to have some level of understanding. D.A. Hochman says,
"I had the chance to meet with some of the family members of Celeste, and their grief is incalculable as to what happened to their daughter. What they have demanded, what we have assured them that the district attorney's office working with LAPD would give them is the proof beyond a reasonable doubt on who killed their daughter, on how their daughter was killed, when their daughter was killed, and bring that killer to justice. That killer that we have now charged is David Anthony Burke.
But one person still writes, I have no sympathy for them. They had one job, which was to keep their kids safe. Another writes, they chose to be a parent, then refused to even do the bare minimum. It amazes me that there are people having sympathy for these parents. It's disrespectful to that little girl that no one was protecting her. The devil doesn't always need an advocate, so stop with the old, they tried BS. David is just one person. There will always be sick fucks like him around. It's up to the parents to watch and protect their child. That is why they need to be charged and made an example of, so maybe the next time a parent will think twice. A lot of people think that's a bit harsh with someone responding, I said it before and I'll say it again. Whatever Celeste's parents and family did or didn't do, they're facing the consequences of it now by having lost their daughter and having to face the murder. To me, that's punishment enough. You guys have a right to your own opinions, but as for me personally, I don't feel good about rubbing it in. As for David's family, they're facing the consequences of their own too. Others write, they see their daughter hanging out in nice houses and getting taken care of. He had to have been buying her clothes, nails, or whatever most predators do, and they thought, wow, she's having fun and she's safe. It's easy to place blame, and yes, they should have done more, but also David shouldn't have murdered her, and she would still be alive. I just think there's a lot more places to be angry about right now. Prosecutors have yet to decide if they want to pursue the death penalty. The defense has, like I said, requested the preliminary hearing be pushed back to June, late June. And as of right now, he is in the LAPD 77th Street jail. He's in the same facility as Nick Reiner, who is accused of killing his parents. David is also being segregated away from the other inmates due to his fame and notoriety. He gets a shower every other day. He gets a phone call the same day that he showers, so every other day. So it's a really big day for him, shower days. A couple hours of recreation time a week by himself. I believe it's about 3 hours a week. He's not on self-exit watch, but he's alone. They think that something could potentially happen to him due to his status. There also could be more charges headed David's way, just because, I mean, the CSAM, that could be a state charge, that could be a federal charge. Typically, it's the feds. And specifically for CSAM, I mean, Beth Silverman really emphasized it too. In the court hearing, she uses the words, he also had an iPhone, and that iPhone, as it's been reviewed, contained a significant amount of child pornography. And under the law, child pornography cannot be retained without there being certain orders in place. I've consulted with our high-tech division, which also handles cases involving child pornography. The protocol, unless the court chooses to structure something different, and she goes on to state that they're going to put it on a law enforcement device in the courthouse, but she's like really honing in on the CSAM. So that's why people think, yes, it's to emphasize how deplorable the evidence is that they found, but also maybe there are extra charges coming his way. But if those charges will follow, I guess, is another question. And I guess the big question is what's going to happen at the preliminary hearing. I don't think it's going to be explosive in the sense of, I don't think they're going to bring in star witnesses and all these other people. I mean, I might be proven wrong. I think a lot of it is going to be law enforcement. So in preliminary hearings, things are a little bit different. So you can actually bring in law enforcement and they can testify on what would normally be considered hearsay in a trial. So in a trial, you can't sit there on the stand and say, this person told me this.
Interesting.
But in the preliminary hearing, because it's a preliminary hearing, a police officer can say, his friend Neo told me this. That's an example. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was talking, I interviewed this person and they told me this. So hearsay is allowed in preliminary hearings when it comes from law enforcement officers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you really, that's why a lot of preliminary hearings, you have, in smaller cases, you'll have like one law enforcement officer who's like, okay, so I investigated this case. This is what I was told by this person. Then I went here, they told me this. And then pretty much that's like the whole witness.
Yeah. But it's going to last a minute, right? Like multiple days.
I mean, judging by the way things are moving, so Beth Silverman says she can get it done in like 4 to 5 days. 4 to 5 days? Yes, but that's not factoring in the defense also examining, you know. But also we don't know because she was also, there was lots of scheduling happening. She was like, I already told my witnesses, cancel your vacations. Wow. And Blair Burke keeps changing the timeline. So we're going to hear some firsthand. Yeah. I think we're going to get a lot of information. I think that preliminary brief, I think we're going to get a lot more information. And I think a lot of the questions in these few episodes are going to get answered in the
Yeah.
preliminary hearing.
It's like just to hear that there's 40 terabytes of evidence. I cannot imagine how much they've gathered.
Oh, and another thing, just to clarify some talk on Reddit and online, Deputy DA Beth Silverman stated that she plans to set a trial date within the next 60 days. I have seen some people confusing that with saying that we're going to go to trial in the next 60 days. I think
they're
that
just setting a date.
Yeah,
within
and
the next 60 days.
that date is probably going to be years from now. That is if there is a trial. I mean, I think the judge is obviously, the preliminary hearing is going to go in favor of the prosecution. There's going to be a trial, but that's if David doesn't plead guilty. Yeah.
Is that a possibility, you think?
I don't think so. I don't think the DA is going to give him any sort of plea deal that he would like. Another thing, there's like politics involved. So DA Hockman was recently elected. And there's, this is his career, as with all DAs. And he definitely needs to prove himself. He has some not great wins under his belt already, some criticism under his belt. So, I mean, this is a huge case. I don't think they're going to give him a good plea deal that he would take. And I just don't see him pleading guilty. I mean, I could be proven wrong, but usually people like David don't plead guilty. Because, I mean, what would he get out of pleading guilty? He'd rather probably just take his chances. It's not like he cares about if he's going into debt paying for his attorney, or his parents are going into debt paying for his attorney.
Okay.
But yeah, so I will keep you guys updated once the preliminary hearing starts, and obviously with the future trial, when and if that occurs. But what are your thoughts on this case? Let me know in the comments. So with that, be safe, and I will see you in the next one.